is truth in journalism, where brave men and women gave voice to the voiceless. But then the corporations bought the journalist, poisoning the news that we are fed. With those tainted sources, all we ever ate was a steady diet of status quo. This hijacked narrative hid the truth of mass suffering, injustice, and corruption throughout our land. Status quo, status quo, status quo, status quo. To expose this shift to oligarchy came a band of honest journalists. They left the studio and hit the streets to give the microphone back to the people. From sea to sea, the people were empowered to share their truth. Their voices no longer stifled, reclaimed their power. Join the media revolution now.
Hey there, Jordan Sheridan, live from the mothership. Let me know if you could hear me. Let me know if you could see me. This is our last live stream of 2019, the last live stream of the decade. Wow. What a big show. What a big show. Apologies, was about an hour late. Had some camera tech problems that I believe are now all worked out. So let me know if everything's looking good, if everything's, you could hear it well. Thank you, Sirius 1976, $10, getting us started in the super chat. Thank you so much. How about a march for us, burn on dude? That's what we plan on doing. We got 200 people watching already. I'm just going to keep it real. I have, aside from sick day here and there, vacation once in a very blue moon, I have been coming to you live every Sunday for the last, I think, year and a half, on top of my Monday through Friday live streams. So we come live because we are a startup. We're a startup without any big dollar funding. So we come live on the weekends, particularly on Sunday, to raise money for Status Coup. So we're hoping if you got a couple bucks after your holiday shopping and expenses, let us know that you support us right there in the super chat. I'll be pushing it all show long. I'll try to read as many as I can. So thank you. If you can contribute to the super chat. My little brother is getting married on New Year's Eve. So tomorrow I won't be live because we have the rehearsal dinner. And then Tuesday I won't be live because it's New Year's Eve and there's the wedding. So this is the final live stream. So hopefully we can make it a good one. We have some original reporting for you. We broke a story the other day that we want to get more attention on related to Pete Buttigieg and his corruption and his police department's corruption in South Bend, Indiana. We also have some interviews you have not yet seen from my reporting in South Bend, Indiana last week, as well as our reporter Marcus Ely, who is out on the campaign trail right now. His reporting at a Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez rally in Nevada. So we'll be showing you those videos. Marcus is also now in Iowa, where he will be reporting for the next several weeks on the campaign trail for us before the Iowa caucus. I believe we will be covering more rallies and giving the microphone back to the people, to more people, interviewing more voters, Bernie supporters, as well as challenging more Biden, Buttigieg, Warren, Klobuchar, all these people than anyone else. I think you will see us challenging folks more than anyone else. So definitely support us if you can. And definitely smash that like button. One last time for the decade. 260 people watching. We need every single one of you right now. Go right under the video. It's the thumbs up button. The more people that press that thumbs up button, the more people will see this live stream. Thank you for pressing that like button. Also, I'm already seeing some of you got the text alert, and that's the only reason you were able to know we were live. That's because YouTube does not notify anyone when we are live. So you can help us out by all you got to do. I'll type it in the chat right now. Text 474747 and then Coup to get on our text alert system. We are now, I believe, at 400 something people have signed up. We need more people to sign up for the text alert system. This is how we survive. Not only thrive, this is how we survive. YouTube is making it so difficult for people to know when we're live, for people to know that we've even posted videos, that we've had to figure out a way to alert people around this suppression, and that is why we're trying to grow this text system. You don't get charged anything. All you got to do, text 474747 and type in Coup, C-O-U-P. We're at Status Coup on the Twitter. We're live on Periscope right there. We're also live on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/Status Coup. And you could join our email list, which is another important way for us to grow. We're now about 4,000 people on our email list. We need that to quadruple lickety-split. So sign up, go to statuscoup.com, enter your email. So where do we even start? Hope everyone had a nice holiday, whether it was Hanukkah, Christmas. Obviously, there was a mass stabbing last night, which we'll get into a little bit later, of a Hanukkah prayer service here in New York, which is very disturbing. I believe it's like the 9th or 10th attack on Jewish people this Hanukkah season, which is really, really striking. We hear a lot about, obviously, school shootings. We hear a lot about obviously attacks against minorities. Anti-Semitism is clearly on the rise here in the United Corporations of America. We need to cover that as well. I happen to be Jewish, so obviously it's something I care about, but I think everyone should care about. So we'll get into that a little bit later, but I got to start with Bernie and Biden. And remember, we got 300 people watching right now. 194 of you have pressed that like button. Smash the thumbs up button right under the video. I'm wearing my Status Coup hoodie, so I'm feeling very, very eager and energetic today. So Bernie Sanders is clearly surging to the point where suddenly, I've been saying for basically a year now, it's almost like the corporate media has like a conference call every Monday, and they just assign different outlets, like you do the hit piece Monday, Washington Post, your Tuesday, Politico, your Wednesday. It's like coordinated. You know what I mean? So thank you, Anna Bird retired, $10 in the super chat. Just love your live reporting. Please, the first A in Nevada is pronounced like cat or bad. Former resident there. Thank you. So it's cat. So Nevada. Do I got it right? Nevada. Let me know if I have it right. And please hit us with the super chats today. Frankly, our South Bend reporting cost us quite a penny to be out there in the field. Sending Marcus to Iowa is not cheap. We have no funding from the oligarchs. We have no funding from the banks, the oil companies, the pharmaceutical companies, Silicon Valley, real estate. We're funded by you. So definitely help us out. We're going to talk about membership, too, in a little bit. So Bernie's rising. And forever, the corporate media, it was like a twofold strategy. On one end, let's prop up every single candidate humanly possible but Bernie Sanders. So first it was Kamala. That didn't work out. Then they were stuffing Beto O'Rourke standing on top of bars down our throat. That did not work. Nevada. Okay. Nevada. So you have Kamala. Beto didn't work out. Then they moved on. They were so happy because Biden jumped in and they thought, oh boy, finally, the establishment, we're covered. We'll just prop up Biden. Then Biden could barely construct full sentences and he couldn't remember which city or state he was in. So they were like, oh boy. So then they kind of hedged their bets. Well, we gotta take out Bernie, so let's just prop up Warren as essentially a progressive alternative. They propped up Warren to the point where she even became the front runner at one point. But then she basically showed she doesn't have any conviction on healthcare and other things. She started moonwalking, and you get what you get. Then Elizabeth Warren started sliding. Then, basically, like around the same time as they were propping up Warren, thank you, Doc Sarg, $1.99 in the super chat. Thank you, I can't read that screen name, Alex and some funny symbols, for $10 for my people in the coup. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You're not just supporting me. You got Jen, you got Colin, you got Marcus. We're trying out a new cameraman too. We are trying to grow, and only you can help us. As much as I love Jimmy, Kyle, Jamal, Humanist Report, The Rational National, all our friends in the progressive media space, as far as I know, we're the only ones out in the field, and it's a lot more expensive. We have a lot more costs than they do. So keep it coming in that super chat. So they've tried out every single person, right? But nobody has caught on. They've been propping up Pete Buttigieg, but finally, some of Pete's dirty laundry, the fact that he's an empty, privileged vessel, is starting to come out. And, I'd like to say, status quo, we thought it was important to go there and show the real Pete Buttigieg. And we have more original videos and reporting we're going to show you today from my reporting in South Bend. So definitely stay tuned. So, all of a sudden, in the same week, it's like a light bulb went off. Wait a minute. Bernie might actually win this thing. We've tried to prop up every other breathing corporate corrupt specimen possible, but Bernie might win this thing. All of a sudden, you start seeing these rather, dare I say, fair segments on CNN, on MSNBC. All of a sudden, you start seeing, like, substantive discussion about Bernie's coalition. You have the New York Times wrote a piece. Bernie's going to be hard to beat. You got Politico, Democratic insiders worried about Bernie. All of a sudden, I'm watching segments and it's like, pinch yourself. Because on one end, we obviously take on the corporate media here. So if they do something good or right, I guess we should credit them, but at the same time, do I believe that this is genuine? Do I believe that this is sincere? Thank you, a Socialist Channel $9.99 in the super chat. Appreciate it. So, I don't really know what to make of it, other than I don't trust it. I know. Hey, contrary to other people, I'll credit corporate media if they do something good. I thought the Washington Post story a couple weeks ago on the giant, corrupt, scandalous, immoral waste that the Afghanistan war was a great story. But I don't trust all these positive segments on Bernie Sanders. And what I support you by subscribing, watching from my hospital bed. Mary, I don't know what's going on, but I hope you're doing okay. My wishes and my prayers are with you, whatever's going on. Thank you for watching us from your hospital bed. I hope it's more entertaining than whatever crap they're feeding you. So, I got to tell you that I don't trust it because to me, the corporate media is just the organ for the corporations. The corporate media is just an organ for, in most cases, the Democratic establishment. So to me, I think the kind segments going on, I think the kind pieces going on about Bernie, and essentially saying what I've been reporting for months. He's got the strongest coalition. He's got the best chance to beat Donald Trump because he'll bring out the most young people. He'll bring out the most first-time voters, new voters. He'll bring out voters that haven't voted in a long time. And, oh, by the way, he doesn't have the baggage of NAFTA, TPP, the bankruptcy bill, Glass-Steagall, Iraq, all that stuff. So I think the corporate media doing this is essentially a blaring siren, if you will. Hey, DNC. Hey, banks. Hey, pharma. Hey, big oil. Hey, Silicon Valley. Hey, wake up. It's time to destroy. I ain't trying to fearmonger, but that's what's going on here. And right now, behind the scenes, I believe you have a very, very orchestrated campaign among corporate media elites, among corporate leaders, and Joe Biden's campaign, and Pete Buttigieg's campaign to do whatever the heck they have to do to make sure Bernie Sanders does not win the Iowa caucus. I'm a reporter, so I'm not going to, just throw out things without backing it up. But I got to tell you something. To me, I don't trust. There's a thing called messaging. There's a thing called coordinated public relations. I don't trust all of the networks, all of the digital sites, all of the corporate legacy print, all at the same time writing these lovely puff pieces. To me, it is a siren. Hey, enough propping up of Pete, enough propping up of Biden, enough propping up. We got to stop trying to prop up candidates and focus all our attention on demolishing Bernie Sanders. So, with that, now we got 500 people watching. 282 of you have pressed that like button. Can I get another 200 something people to press that like button right under this live stream? The more people that press that like button, the more people that will see this live stream. Makes a huge difference. Even if you don't like me, just fake it. Fake it till you make it. And keep it coming in the super chat if you can. So, first I want to read, before we get to Joe Biden. Guess when Joe Biden decided to release the list of his bundlers? Joe Biden released his bundlers. If you don't know what that means, it's just the list of rich people who are raising millions and millions of dollars for Joe Biden via fundraising. He just does it at 9:30 on Friday night after Christmas, before New Year's, when nobody is paying attention. This is what they call it's called a news dump. Politicians, corporations dump bad news on a Friday night. But when you dump news that you do not want to be covered, you do not want anyone to see, on the Friday night after Christmas, before New Year's, you are basically saying, oh, this is bad. This is really bad. So we're just going to dump it where everybody's asleep. That's what he's hoping. But I'm not asleep. And a few other people were not asleep. So we're going to go through this Hall of Fame list of corrupt swine who are raising millions of dollars so that Joe Biden can masquerade as a friend of the middle class. Joe Biden could masquerade as Union Man Joe. Joe Biden could masquerade as having the best shot to be gonna beat Donald Trump like a drum. Meanwhile, Joe Biden is essentially just totally running a campaign to continue the Gilded Age and trying to hide it with his little money blanket on the Friday night after Christmas before New Year's Eve. Kudos for the graphic, Colin Tooley. So, I want to go through some of these bundlers, but first, we got to see what is Bernie Sanders doing, because Bernie has pivoted. Bernie is finally listening to my advice. I have been telling Bernie, take off the gloves. Take off the gloves, Bernie. Go after Biden, and finally, he is. So, Bernie Sanders is starting to focus on Joe Biden's terrible record and how essentially Joe Biden is just Hillary Clinton with different parts. Quote, if you're Donald Trump and you got Biden having voted for the war in Iraq, Biden having voted for these terrible, in my view, trade agreements, Biden having voted for the bankruptcy bill, Trump will eat his lunch. Joe Biden is a personal friend of mine. Enough with that. We get it. So I'm not here to attack him. But my God, if you're Donald Trump and you got Biden having voted for Iraq, Biden having voted for these terrible trade agreements, Biden having voted for the bankruptcy bill, Trump will eat his lunch. Yes, we need more of that. And I would add to that sentence, voting for the Glass-Steagall repeal, which created the financial crash of 2008. The Patriot Act. He can't really go with the crime bill because Bernie voted for that too. Granted, Bernie, when he voted for it, said the mass incarceration provisions troubled him greatly, but he was voting for it because of the violence against women provisions. To me, bad vote by Bernie. Just got to call it what it is. I understand why he did it, but he should have voted against it, period. But at least he wasn't pushing the crime bill. At least it wasn't his bill. At least in 2016, when asked, do you regret it? He didn't say, no, not at all, as Joe Biden did. So Bernie is pivoting, finally, to taking on Joe Biden. He had that great line during the last debate, basically saying, "Oh, Joe, you got 44 billionaires. Mayor Peepsqueak over here, you got 40, you got 39." So he's finally exposing that Joe Biden is Hillary Clinton. Joe Biden is a, I guess, less viscerally racist form of Donald Trump, but he's just as corrupt as Donald Trump. You think Joe Biden's going to do anything to change corruption in Washington? You think Joe Biden's going to do anything to close the revolving door between the banks, between the media, between the corporations, between the lobbyists? No. Joe Biden's family has enriched themselves the same as Donald Trump's has. Yeah, he's not as bad. He's not going to ban religions. Hopefully children won't die on the border. There's some things Biden obviously would be better on, but Joe Biden isn't bringing the people rationing their insulin right now. He's not helping them. He's not bringing them to the promised land. Joe Biden isn't going to help anyone working 3 jobs right now. Joe Biden is a return to yesteryear of neoliberalism. That's all it is. It's one last stand for the neoliberals before the youth and the older progressives take over. Thank you for the super chat. Steady Drummer, $4.99. Really appreciate it. Keep it up. Sticker. So, as Bernie starts pivoting to taking on Joe Biden directly, I think he should have done this months ago, but whatever. Better late than never. As I've talked about, Bernie's number 2, a close second in Iowa right now. Bernie's number 1 in New Hampshire right now. Last poll in South Carolina, he was down 7 in South Carolina. If Bernie Sanders only loses South Carolina by 7 points, that would be a victory, considering how bad he lost in 2016. And if Joe Biden cannot win South Carolina by at least 15 to 20 points, most political observers would look at that as a defeat for Joe Biden. And it would look, he's not really dominating among black people like he needs to win the nomination. Joe is currently living in 1982. You're not far off. You're not far off. So Joe Biden released at 9:30 at night after Christmas his list of volunteer fundraisers. You know, he's marketing it like they're volunteer firemen or something. Yeah, just a list of a who's who of plutocrats raising over $25,000 for his campaign. This is the list of bundlers. And I love this because, in fairness, Obama, Hillary, these people, they actually released it in terms of tiers. Here's who's raised over $25,000. Here's who's raised over $100,000. Here's who's raised over $250,000. Here's who's raised after over $1 million. You get it? Whereas Buttigieg and now Biden, they're being secrety and slimy. They're just throwing everyone in the same bucket. Here's who's raised over $25,000 for me. So we don't know, honestly, until the Federal Election Commission records come out, which is until early next year. We just don't know how much is each person raising, because there's some who are probably raising hundreds of thousands of dollars, while others might have raised the paltry sum of $25,000. But let me ask you a question. Do you think people are raising money on behalf of Joe Biden just because they're so inspired by Joe? Do you think that's why they're raising money for Joe Biden? Or do you think that they're a part of this really gross, really corrupt, really slimy game of access that has been going on in Washington, D.C. as long as I've been alive, but that the Democratic Party has basically been just as bad as the Republicans on? I guarantee you, quite a few of these people raising money for Joe, they're going to get ambassadorships. They're going to become ambassador to some country that they've never been to. They're going to get positions in the White House. They're going to get invited to the state dinners. They're going to get a subsidy or a tax cut or a tax abatement for their company. They're going to get that federal contract for their company. This is how it works. This is how it works. But the Democratic Party has been trying to hoodwink you for many, many years that, but you have to vote for us because, yeah, we might be corrupt, but like women, you could do whatever you want with your body. We're not going to tell you what to do with your body. And like, Muslims, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome here. We're not as racist, and we're good on the social issues, so just look the other way as we sell out your future economically. That's been the Democratic Party for the last 30, 40 years. Read, if you got time this New Year's, if you have any time off or whatever, and if you have the money to get it, Thomas Frank wrote a great book called Listen Liberal. It is the best book I've read. It's the best thing I've read to really explain how far the Democratic Party shifted, essentially, to becoming moderate Republicans. So as the Republican Party went extreme to become these radical Trump Tea Partiers, the Democratic Party basically moved over to like being, I don't know, Bob Dole in 1996. How do you change a country if both parties are Republicans? Just one is worse. So Joe Biden, let's take a look here. Some of his bundlers. You remember this question at a local, I think it was a town hall for Joe Biden? Let's take a look.
I'm 27 years old. Half of all greenhouse gas emissions ever generated by the entire history of human civilization have been released in my lifetime. This despite the now well-documented fact that 40 years ago, scientists at Exxon and Shell knew and reported to their bosses that burning fossil fuels was warming the planet and would destabilize the climate. Fossil fuel corporations, their executives, their trade and industry organizations, and their think tank front groups have waged a decades-long campaign of lying to the public about the science, and it has brought us to a crisis that threatens the entire human race. Now, I know that you signed the No Fossil Fuel Money Pledge, but I have to ask, how can we trust you to hold these corporations and executives accountable for their crimes against humanity when we know that tomorrow you are holding a high-dollar fundraiser hosted by Andrew Goldman, a fossil fuel executive?
He's not a fossil fuel executive, I'm told. He is not a fossil fuel executive. And the fact of the matter is that what we talk about is, what are we going to do about those corporations? What have we done? And everywhere along the way, for example, I've argued and pushed for us suing those executives who are engaged in pollution, those companies who are engaged in pollution. I've never walked away from that. I've also been one of those people who, when I was chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, got involved in plans.
So, I mean, Joe Biden essentially pretended that guy wasn't a fossil fuel executive. He was. He said, hell, I don't care where the money's coming from, just give me your money. And he held a fundraiser anyway. Well, that guy, who Joe Biden pretended wasn't a fossil fuel executive, he is, natural gas, LNG. That guy, according to the list, raised at least $25,000 for Joe Biden. So, of course, Joe Biden is going to help solve the climate crisis, which, to tell you the truth, I'm just going to start calling it the inferno. I think terms matter. I think gentrification is not a term that many people understand, so I call it economic terrorism. And I think climate change is not a term or climate crisis really puts in the urgency of it. So I'm going to start calling it the inferno. So Joe Biden is not going to do anything to stop the inferno because he's taking money from the people pouring the gasoline on the fire. He's taking money to the people putting a match into it. And frankly, Trump is unprecedentedly bad on the environment. But Joe Biden becoming president would just be a slower death of the planet, a slower moving death to the planet. Because Joe Biden isn't going to see the damage. If he's lucky, he's got another 20 years left on this planet. We're all going to deal with it. So that's one person raising money. I don't know how much he raised because Joe Biden put everyone on the list at $25,000. So this guy could have raised 250,000 for him, 500,000. Who the hell knows? We don't know who is this guy getting to donate to Joe Biden, because it's not just that this guy is raising money for Joe Biden. Who is he getting to donate? I would assume other people in the fossil fuel industry that Andrew Goldman knows. So Joe Biden is a mother fracker, if you know what I'm saying. I'm trying not to get demonetized. Help me out in the super chat. We almost got 700 people watching. Only 452 of you have pressed that like button. The more people that press that like button, the more people that will see this live stream. So, let's get to more goodies. You know, Joe Biden, he doesn't want Medicare for all. $30 trillion. I wonder why. Michael Neerdorf of St. Louis, chairman and CEO of the $60+ billion healthcare company Centene, is among the list of bundlers released last night by Joe Biden's campaign. Well, what is Centene all about, you ask? Here's a story. Enriched by the poor. California health insurers make billions through Medicaid. Oh, wait. I thought the Medicaid expansion of Obamacare was supposed to help the poor, not enrich private health insurance companies. Medicaid is rarely associated with getting rich. The patients are poor, the budget's tight, and payments to doctors often paltry. But some insurance companies are reaping spectacular profits off the taxpayer-funded program in California, even when the state finds their patient care is subpar. A unit of Centene Corp., the largest Medicaid insurer nationwide, raked in $1.1 billion in profits from 2014 to 2016, according to state data obtained and analyzed by Kaiser Health News. Anthem, another industry giant, turned a profit of $549 billion from California's Medicaid program in the same period. Overall, Medicaid insurers in the Golden State made $5.4 billion in profits from 2014 to 2016, in part because the state paid higher rates during the inaugural years of the nation's Medicaid expansion under Obamacare. Last year, they made more money than all Medicaid insurers combined in 34 other states with managed care plans. Those profits are gigantic. Wow, a health economist and professor at the University of Southern California said. California is being wildly open-handed and excessively generous with insurers. No wonder. Jennifer Kent, California's Medicaid director, said the health plan profits were higher than anticipated during the ACA expansion, but she said the state expects to recoup a significant amount of money within the next year once audits are complete and retroactive rate adjustments. Yeah, I'm sure. Health insurers who profited substantially, like for Medicaid, known as Medi-Cal, defend their good fortune. They say these surpluses follow losses in earlier years. What they don't say here, moreover, California payments keep flowing steadily even when patients fare poorly. Two of the most profitable insurers in California, Centene, who is raising money for Joe Biden, run some of the worst performing Medicaid plans, according to medical quality scores and complaints in government records. Quote, if there is that much extra money sloshing around in California, then it's worth asking whether you could expect more in terms of performance. So, isn't that interesting? Joe Biden says Medicare for all, too expensive. Medicare for all, it's a socialized money grab. Medicare for all, it's not practical, blah, 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 blah. But him and Barack Obama in the Affordable Care Act essentially basically gave insurers free money. Do I think Medicaid expansion is a good thing? Absolutely. I think that's one of the only good things about Obamacare. It's great that more people were able to get on Medicaid. But a lot of these providers, like Centene, who is raising money for middle-class Joe, instead of the gross amount of profits they were making, instead of putting that back into actual health care, they provided, according to health experts, inadequate services while hoarding profits. Isn't that interesting? Isn't it interesting? Why do we think that Joe Biden, who's claiming his plan is going to go further than Obamacare, it's going to have a public buy-in for a public option, which a public option, a buy-in, is just another word for a premium. Not everybody can afford the buy-in for a public option. And when you have a public option, in addition to a expansive private health insurance industry, the actual services you would get if you get on the public option are still not as good as just straight up Medicare, because the way Medicare works for seniors is it is the single payer. So it controls costs, it controls services. So Joe Biden essentially is raising money from fossil frackers. I want to say another F word, but I'm not getting enough super chats yet to risk being demonetized. If I get more super chats, I'm going to curse like a sailor. Just keeping it real. And again, if you came to this late, this is the last live stream of 2019, the last live stream of the decade. So if you're feeling super, if you want to support Status Coup, right there, do it in the super chat. Also, just so you know, we're at 749 members. Our goal was 1,000 for the end of the year, so unfortunately, we're definitely not making that. I believe in miracles. Can we get 20 more members today? Statuscoup.com/join. And soon I'm going to show you some of our original reporting from South Bend that our members are funding by funding our ability to go out and report. So you could join us, statuscoup.com/join. So let's see. Who else is Joe Biden taking money from and getting money raised from while he pretends to be middle-class Joe? Another one of Joe Biden's bundlers is Bradley Butwin, a partner in New York City law firm O'Melveny. They represent corporations, not unions, in employment law matters and provide clients with, quote, advice in connection with union avoidance. Oh, my Lord. Union man Joe. I'm from Scranton. Oh, my Lord. I've never done a thing to hurt the unions. I've been fighting. I've been building those bricks with those hard union workers every step of the way. I ride the Amtrak to work. Not only has he done many fundraisers with union bashing companies like Comcast, which I hope Bernie Sanders starts bringing up on the campaign trail, Joe Biden is not a friend of the unions. Not only did he vote for NAFTA, not only did he try to push TPP, which would have been the final death nail in labor unions, now he's making money and raising money from union busters. Pete Buttigieg, as I've exposed, is one hell of a false advertiser. But so is Joe Biden. And the corporate media has allowed Joe Biden for the last 30 years to masquerade as some middle-class hero, to masquerade as some like blue-collar, I shower after work kind of guy, when he's the total opposite. And if you had a media industry with just an ounce of integrity, you would know. You would know all this. You know this because of independent media, but the masses don't know this. Think about all the people making $50,000 or less that support Joe Biden. They're voting against their own interests, and they don't even know it. Think about all the people with only high school degrees voting for Joe Biden. They're voting against their own interests. They don't even know it. It's not just Donald Trump supporters that vote against their own interests. It's not just Republicans who vote for monsters like Mitch McConnell who vote against their own interests. It's Democrats, workers, union workers who vote against their own interests because there's no media in this country to actually inform them of those interests. There's more. There's more. Revolving Door on Twitter had a really good list here. Erskine Bowles, Bill Clinton's White House chief of staff, who's now on at Facebook and Morgan Stanley, he is raising money for Joe Biden. Remember, during the Obama years, they tried to do a grand bargain? Well, their idea of a grand bargain was to essentially cut Social Security, cut unemployment benefits, I mean, it's unbelievable. Look at this. One was Erskine Bowles, who developed a bipartisan plan in 2012 to cut Social Security benefits up to 35%, cut disabled veterans' benefits by up to $2,200 a year, raise the retirement age and Medicare eligibility. Say it ain't so, Joe. This is who's raising money for Joe Biden. It's truly unbelievable that this guy gets away with this stuff. And I would like to see Bernie's campaign, after the holidays, after the new year, start naming names. Joe Biden is also leaning on Alan Patrikoff for fundraising. Patrikoff is one of the pioneers of the private equity industry, aka financial strip mining. It's no surprise that Mark Angelson backs Joe Biden, since he's worked with Biden's campaign for over 30 years. He's an M&A professor who brags in his Biden Foundation bio that he was a leader of the transformation and consolidation of the printing industry. Oh, that's nice. Oh, did I lose it? Hold on. Amy Baker, a Joe Biden bundler, is a 20-year veteran of NBC News and entertainment divisions. But her husband, Barry, is a senior advisor at Lee Equity Partners. Oh, no wonder MSNBC and CNN and NBC News have been blowing Joe Biden for the last year. Not to mention, Comcast, which owns NBC and MSNBC, held a fundraiser for Joe Biden at the beginning of his campaign. Then you got Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg have a rivalry for hearts and pocketbooks of a prominent Virginia family. Congressman Don Byers is bundling for Buttigieg, but his wife, Meghan, is bundling for Biden. Then you got Dianne Feinstein, lover of the military-industrial complex, corrupt in her own right, and her husband, both raising a lot of money for Joe Biden. Bradley Butwin, the chair of big law firm Ovany and Myers, bundles for Joe Biden. Ovany and Myers defended Donald Trump in a lawsuit over Trump University and his inaugural committee in an SDNY investigation. You gotta love it. Bipartisan corruption. So Joe Biden is raising money from law firms defending Donald Trump for his corruption. Comcast top lobbyist, Comcast owns NBC and MSNBC, David Cohen is a Joe Biden bundler. Little surprise, since Biden held a fundraiser at Cohen's house the day after he announced he was running for president. The mayor of Detroit, Mike Dugan, who I'm working on a story right now, is capital C corrupt. If you live in Detroit, you know exactly what I'm talking about. He's raising money for Joe Biden. Another Biden bundler is Joseph Falk of Ackerman LLP, who does lobbying and, quote, government affairs for mortgage brokers. Biden might have promised from day one to reject lobbyist campaign contributions, but is apparently fine with lobbyists fundraising for him. Then you got Silicon Valley insider John Fisher is a Joe Biden bundler too. Fisher is a major advocate for building startups with the goal of being bought by bigger firms instead of trying to create actually a standalone company. Curse of Binges, anyone? And Biden has another Hollywood mogul bundling for him, Jim Giannopoulos, CEO of Paramount. Now, note that Paramount's company Viacom recently announced a merger with CBS, which Giannopoulos confirmed to run the film division. Raising cash for POTUS could help with that merger. Wow. And we don't want to forget the little people. Hold on. Jeffrey Katzenberg of DreamWorks Animation. Mega wealthy person. I believe a billionaire. Jeffrey Katzenberg raising money for Joe Biden. Oh, by the way, I don't mean this is an attack, but you should know Jeffrey Katzenberg invested $20 million in my former employer, the Young Turks, in 2017. Just interesting. I mean, this is like you put in a bowl Al Gore, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Jamie Dimon of Bank of J.P. Morgan. Just put them all in a bowl, mix it up, put some balsamic vinaigrette on it, and call it middle class. The people that are raising money for Joe Biden are not raising money because they think he's a leader. They're raising money because they know he will keep their wallets flush. That's it. That's the ball game. That's how this works. Do I think on some things Joe Biden would be better than Donald Trump? I do. I know I'm unpopular if I say that, but I'm not going to just say what you want for clicks. Of course, he's going to be better on some things. He's not going to ban religions. I would hope his administration, if there was one, there wouldn't be all these children dying at the border. But on this critical issue that affects everything, that red line is going to keep on keeping on. That red line is going to keep on keeping on. Because the people raising money for Joe Biden, God knows who those people raising money for Joe Biden are getting to donate. Because that's just one piece of it. These are people who are raising the money. They are tapping into their networks of fellow corrupt people to donate to Joe Biden. And they're doing it to keep things the way they are. And meanwhile, the corporate media is doing their best to just hide it. They are doing their best to just allow Joe Biden to hide the fact that he is a fixture of this new Gilded Age. Nothing different. No change. As he told Wall Street behind closed doors, you put me in the White House, nothing's going to change for you. No problems. Carol Edwards, $50 in the super chat. I'm only here for the cursing. Carol, I love you. Thank you. Because Joe Biden is a motherfucker, fracking fucker. And he's taking money from a bunch of mother frackers and fuckers. So thank you, Carol Edwards, for that very, very generous donation. Thank you. Peace Power, $10 in the super chat. Happy New Year, Status Coup. Happy New Year to you, too. Thanks for watching. Anna Bird retired, another $10. Listen to a town hall with Bernie, and he is going to use the Republican trick of budget reconciliation, 50+1 vice president vote, to pass Medicare for all. He didn't mention PAYGO once. Brilliant. There's a reason he was the amendment king. Contrary to the media who pretends that Bernie Sanders never did anything, he got more amendments into bills that became law than any other senator during his time. He also, with Ro Khanna, got the War Powers Act enacted for the first time in American history. He also, with, frankly, a warmonger, may he rest in hell, John McCain, got the Veterans Health Care Bill passed. He also, as part of Obamacare, got $9 billion for community centers, community health centers. So he's done a lot. Al Walski, $10 in the super chat. Keep on telling it like it is. You did in Standing Rock and Flint. We're trying. And Al and everybody watching, we got 700 people watching. I know I've been teasing it for a while. I believe we are, Jen and I, Jen's off today. I believe we are, if everything goes right, about 3 weeks away, 3 weeks to a month away from the biggest story of my career, for sure. The biggest story Status Coup has ever done. Honestly, to me, maybe I'm a little biased, the biggest story other than Trump, other than 9/11, other than the BP oil spill, other than... I can't really think of bigger things than what we're about to break. And if, hopefully when I break it, you won't think I played it up more than it deserved. But to me, the story we're working on, and I'm not getting into it because I've had stories killed more times than I could think because I said too much. The story we're soon breaking, I believe, will make all of you proud. And hopefully will bring some accountability and change. So keep those super chats coming. So all I have to say... Oh, there's one more. Not to be outdone. Joe Biden is also raising money from Michael Schrum. Michael Schrum, who, as of a few years ago, was the Democratic National Committee's deputy finance director. And he then, after being Democratic National Committee's deputy finance director, pivoted over to being Joe Biden's body man. A body man is somebody who travels with the president or vice president or whatever, and carries their luggage, does all the dirty work. So you have a DNC connection. Yeah, he's not at the DNC anymore, but he was the deputy finance director. You think Michael Schrum doesn't have contacts at the DNC now? I don't think the DNC is going to be stupid enough this time to put in writing whatever they're doing to rig the primary against Bernie Sanders. But Joe Biden's got the former deputy finance director raising who knows how much money. They only list it as $25,000. We don't know how much are these people actually raising because he just put everyone in one bucket, over $25,000. So it's a long list. I haven't researched all of them. I will, and we'll do a follow-up to show you other dubious people he's raising money for. But the bottom line is, I think Bernie Sanders' campaign is doing the right thing in pushing his policies, in doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on Medicare for All, which is, contrary to the corporate media lies, wildly popular. But I also think, and you started to see it in the last debate, we need to start hearing from Bernie's campaign more about this stuff that I'm reporting. Because Bernie's campaign has the opportunity to pick off, maybe it's 2%, maybe it's 3%, maybe it's 4% of those people currently supporting Joe Biden that have been misinformed that he's a friend of the middle class, that he's a friend of the worker bee. And Joe Biden's support is not fixed in place. So there is time. There is time for Bernie Sanders to pull some of that support away. But there's not a ton of time, by my count, where I think 30 some odd days away. 30 some odd days away from the Iowa caucus. So it's crunch time. It is crunch time. We'll see what happens. Thank you, M. Kip, $20 in the super chat. Independent news outlets such as yours are the only way I get news. I refuse to watch corporate media, so thank you for doing this work and continuing to cover the things that matter. Thank you so much, M. Kip, for that kind donation, as well as the kind comment. So, before I get to the next story, which is an exclusive story we did a couple days ago, exposing further that Pete Buttigieg is a fraud. It's getting around on social media. We're hoping it gets picked up in the media. We need your help to get it picked up in the media, so we will get to that in a minute. Before I get to that story, I want to play an interview Marcus just did in Nevada. If you don't know Marcus Ely, a reporter for us, you are funding Marcus being out in Nevada. Now he's in Iowa through your membership. If you're not a Status Coup member, you could sign up for as low as $5 a month. This is how we're going to grow. This is how we fund in the field reporting, like me just in South Bend, like sending Marcus to Nevada. Sending Marcus to Iowa. He just got there after a 17-hour drive. We are funding him to be in Nevada for the next few weeks to cover rallies, to investigate if there's rigging or corruption going on before the Iowa caucus. But money don't grow in trees, and we have no backing from plutocrats, bankers, oil execs, pharma execs, Silicon Valley, real estate developers. None of that. We're funded by you. So if you want to support real independent journalism in the field, not in a studio, in the field, sign up today. Statuscoup.com/join for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Let's take a look at one of Marcus's interviews, and then I'll be back with our the exclusive story I just broke.
Marcus Ely still here at the AOC rally for Bernie Sanders in Las Vegas, on the east side of Las Vegas. I'm here with William. Can you tell me a little bit about what brought you out to see AOC today?
Well, I'm here to see AOC and Bernie because I've been around for a long time, been alive, and they're the only straight shooters that are in politics right now. They're the only ones who are actually telling the brutal truth. We have to get money out of government. People are struggling, families are struggling, and we need Medicare for all, we need job security, we need a living wage. And these things are super important. We got one party that is really trying to get to step on people, and the other one seems to be mostly standing by, doing symbolic things. And only Bernie and AOC are telling the brutal truth and working for American families.
Um, so, what in specific about them, or what specific truths rather, are they telling that draw you to them?
Well, like I said, money in politics. When a billionaire can put his money, money is not speech. That is ridiculous. Corporations are not people. When we allow that kind of politics, real people get squashed. We get diminished. We turn into numbers of a corporation. You know, last night I heard that 30,000 people die without health care in America every year. That's horrific. And I grew up hearing that we were the greatest nation in the world. Well, that's no way to be the greatest nation in the world. We're the richest nation in the world. And yet every time you turn around, you hear from a lot of the media, how are you going to pay for that? When you look at the facts, we're already paying for it through our taxes, through our government, through our, we pay for insurance, or our employer pays for insurance and it's taken out of our checks. So all people, there's a lot of dishonesty in politics. We all know, always cliche is dishonest politicians, but it's really deep. And only Bernie and AOC are telling the truth and really working for people of the 99%. The 1% wants everything. It seems to be.
So, were you active in politics before Bernie and AOC 2016 and all that?
I have been voting Democratic my entire life since 1976. Every election, only for Democrats. And I was under the impression that they were going to rescue us from Republican evil. When a Republican wants to take away people's pensions, take away Social Security, thought the Democrats were going to be stopping them. And when Democrats get in office, they were supposed to do good for us, right? Stop the wars, bring home our soldiers, all those things. And they really have been pretty lousy at that job. And I've been pretty disgusted. And again, after so many years, only Bernie's telling the truth. Only Bernie says he's going to work for us. So
I want to stop you and ask you just a quick question because, like, what you're saying are a lot of the things I hear from folks that are incredibly apathetic and are like, you know what, I'm not even wasting my time. So can you explain to folks that may be trying to convince those type of people what they would have to say to someone like you to get, or what was said for someone like you to get you over to Bernie? And then furthermore, on top of that, you talk yourself as one of those folks that feel that way to the Bernie, to the folks that are undecided.
Right. Well, that's very important because a lot of people I have heard since the last election say, what good does it do if both parties are pretty much taking money from the same billionaires, right? Working for the corporations. So if the parties are the same, then we're sunk. Then there's no point. Then apathy is the correct. But we have Bernie Sanders right now, who is here going to work for us. He has been working for us all along, it seems to me. I've seen his pictures from the 60s when he gets arrested protesting for people. And so here's a guy who's devoted his lifetime to helping people, honestly helping people. And, I mean, he did great when he was mayor. He's done great when he was senator, right? It's time to make him president. Right, because nobody else is doing the job. Nobody else is even trying. So my feeling is, Bernie Sanders, 2020. This is the last shot for the 99%. Afterwards, we just get more of the same, business as usual from both sides. You know what I mean? The rich have been getting richer, and the poor have been getting poorer. And this is our shot to change that trajectory.
And what would you say to folks that are Bernie supporters and would tell you, hey, you're a little too attached to Bernie himself, and it's supposed to be not me, us. And like it's the movement and not just Bernie and AOC, and like let's not get attached to figures. What would you say to those folks?
Well, it absolutely is the movement, but Bernie is leading the movement. It's not necessarily his ideas. I mean, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, right, brought us Social Security, brought us taking care of families, brought us taking care of 99%. But Bernie has been speaking about it and bringing this up because before then, nobody else has been doing that. Am I right? I think that's the case. So, for instance, a friend of mine, she watches MSNBC, Rachel Maddow. Immediately she comes out, oh, Bernie's too old. I said, I would rather have Bernie in office for 3 months and bring his people in so that the ball would be rolling. Bernie has already gotten a lot of things done. I've been reading the news. He already getting a lot of things done without being president, right? And he will continue, right? Whereas the people that so-called won the last election, they've only been hurting us. So the things that are positive are coming from his movement, our movement. So that's my feeling.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you. Why don't we see that guy on CNN? Why don't we see that guy quoted in the Washington Post? They're out there. They're smart, progressives, even older people. And they know what's up. He said something that I'm saying right now. You go with Biden, you go with any of these faux progressives, you're going to get the same old, same old. Maybe that's okay for the older folks. And it's not all old folks. We got a lot of older viewers who are progressive. I'm not condemning all old people, but frankly, most of Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton and establishment support is among the over 50 crowd. Wake up, baby boomers. Care about your children. Care about the future generations. Thank you for the super chats while we played that. But I thought that was a great, great interview. And, you know, I was talking to Marcus the other day. He drove 17 hours straight to Iowa. He's in Iowa right now, so get used to him reporting for us. He's going to be covering all sorts of rallies there, all sorts of interviews he's going to do. And I said to him, of course we want to cover Bernie rallies and give a voice to Bernie voters. We'll probably cover some Tulsi stuff, even though, frankly, I'm getting a little sick of some of these Tulsi people on Twitter who are they're like cult members at this point. If you say anything negative, if you disagree at all with Empress Gabbard, you're a sellout. Like, get a grip, people. But I digress. Apparently, you have to agree with Tulsi Gabbard 100% all the time, or you're un-American. So I said to Marcus, it's time for you to get ugly. It's time for you to get ugly. We got to take off the gloves. So, everybody's got different styles, but I think Marcus, he's newer to this, so he's just kind of getting his footing. But I expect Marcus to take on some neoliberals at Biden, Buttigieg, Klobuchar, even Warren. He's taking off some gloves. I told him I want the gloves off. Don't be a jerk. Don't be rude. But there's a way of being aggressive while also there's a way of being aggressive and respectful. So that's what we're going to try to do. And I really, really appreciate all the super chats. If you appreciate Marcus's reporting, if you appreciate my reporting, Jen's reporting, if you want to fund actual investigative reporting in the field, here's the link one more time. It's the only way we could grow for the long term. Statuscoup.com/join, unless you're expecting CNN to do this kind of reporting in the field. Unless you're expecting other independent outlets to do this kind of reporting. So let's get back. To more original reporting. Part of why I always push, hey, fund us, whether it was the GoFundMe, we raised $85,000 thanks to you guys, whether it's membership, statuscoup.com/join, is because the way to break stories that matter is to build sources. Part of how you build sources is showing up in communities. I can't tell you how many times I have gone to a place like South Bend, Indiana, and within 2 or 3 days, I've been able to break a story because these activists in these communities never actually have any media talk to them. Their local media won't talk to them or give them the time of the day. The national media doesn't talk to them or give them the time of the day. So because you guys funded us to go to South Bend last week, I was there for like 4 or 5 days. Thank you, Sandra Meyer, $27 in the super chat. Very kind. Thank you so much. I was able to build up sources really quickly. So one of those sources, an activist named Wayne Hubbard, the night that, if you remember, I broke a story while I was in South Bend that Pete Buttigieg's police department, by the way, if you don't know, Pete Buttigieg is still technically the mayor of South Bend, Indiana. He is not the mayor as of this coming Wednesday. So he is still the mayor of South Bend, even though he's not in South Bend, haven't been there for probably weeks at this point. He is running for office. While I was there, I was literally starting an interview as I get a text. Yo, officers from the South Bend Police Department were just caught on tape basically like mimicking Klansmen from the movie Django Unchained. If you've never seen Django, Jamie Foxx played a freed slave. It's a Quentin Tarantino film. It's very bloody, as most Quentin Tarantino films are. And essentially, Klansmen were marching down to lynch Jamie Foxx, his character Django. And on that march, the KKK members argue amongst themselves because one of their wives built hoods for them that don't fit. So the scene was kind of like attempting to be comical, but the bottom line is that they're KKK members. They're trying to lynch black people, right? So I broke that story. Unfortunately, timing is everything. I broke it when the same night that Trump was impeached, so it didn't really get around that much. It got a lot of traction on social media. South Bend Tribune was forced to pick it up because it got so much traction on social media, and as a result, the police department said they were going to investigate it. To be real, they're not going to investigate shit. They're not going to do anything. There's South Bend Police Department, as we've seen nationally, is hella racist. So, but at least we got it around what was going on. So the other day, I'm reporting on another story, and I get a message from one of the activist sources that I built in South Bend while I was there. Thank you for the super chat, Lady Hawk, $9.99 in the super chat. Tulsi and Bernie supporters need to stick together. I'm a Tulsi supporter, but I was all in for Bernie in 2016 and would definitely back him again in 2020. No candidate should be exempt from criticism. Thank you. A reasonable comment. And by the way, I support Tulsi Gabbard. She's not my first choice, but I love her foreign policy views. Me saying I don't agree with her impeachment vote isn't condemning Tulsi Gabbard. It's saying, I don't agree on this particular thing she did. I think people are losing sight. It's not healthy or good to support any politician, including Bernie Sanders, 100% of the time. That's not support. That's cult worship. So I like Tulsi Gabbard. There's some things that concern me that I've publicly said. There's others on YouTube that essentially have their head so far up her ass they cannot see straight. And they do it for clicks. I don't play that way. I'm not going to just tell you what you want to hear for clicks. And if you want to watch people like that, you can watch Fox News, you can watch MSNBC, or some on YouTube. But thank you for the super chat, Lady Hawk. And I agree, because there's way more in common between Bernie supporters and Tulsi supporters than Bernie supporters and Warren supporters. So thank you for the super chat and the level-headed statements. So I get a message from this activist, the police chief, Buttigieg's police chief, was texting me the night that by the way, these police officers were caught on tape quoting Klansmen from Django while arresting a black man. And during that arrest, we broke this story. One of the officers told the other officers, turn off your body cameras. So they're basically imitating Klansmen. And oh, by the way, while we're doing it, turn off your body cameras. So the police chief was texting a local activist, a local Black Lives Matter activist, the night of the arrest, essentially trying to deny that the arresting officers who made the comments, quoting the Klan, they were literally playing out a scene from Django Unchained after they arrested this guy, glorifying a scene where KKK members are on the march to lynch Jamie Foxx. So he sent me the text messages. This is what happens when you go in the field. You build sources, you gain trust. And he sent me the text messages from the police chief to him. The police chief was literally lying and saying, oh, well, there are other police agencies there, trying to basically muddy the waters because during the live stream, the guy who got arrested, a 21-year-old black man, live streamed his arrest, which was really smart. The police officers turned around the phone thinking that would just end the live stream, but the audio was still running. So although the screen was black, you could hear what they were saying. So I couldn't identify the police officers because there was no visuals for most of it. But I read the police report. The arresting officer was a South Bend police officer. The arresting agency was South Bend Police. An eyewitness at the scene told me there were only South Bend police cruisers there. So you have the police chief texting an activist saying, well, I know there were other agencies other than South Bend Police, basically trying to muddy the waters and make it seem like, well, the officers who made the offensive comments weren't us. It wasn't us. So our hands are clean. All the while, by the way, and I'm going to read you some of those text messages. All the while, Pete Buttigieg, still the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, Pete Buttigieg won't say a word about this. Even though the South Bend Tribune wrote it up after I broke it. By the way, they would not credit Status Coup in their story. I made a video just for members. Sign up, statuscoup.com/join, where I read to you the most insane email that I've ever gotten from somebody who works in corporate media, explaining to me why they would not credit Status Coup in their story about that, even though we broke it. I digress. Sign up as a member if you want to read that email. So, let me read you the story I broke. And if you'd be so kind, if you're on Twitter, we're at 280 retweets for this story. This is how we could get this story around even further and demand Pete Buttigieg have to comment and address it. Kindly retweet that tweet for 713 people watching. It's at Status Coup. There's the story. So I'm going to read you the story because it's really insane. Could you imagine for a second, before I read the story, if it was Mayor of Burlington, Bernie Sanders, running for president right now? Can you imagine if Mayor Sanders, his police officers, were caught on tape imitating Klansmen while arresting a black man in Burlington, Vermont? Not only would the media be all over it, not only would Bernie Sanders be forced to comment on the story, they would be calling for Bernie Sanders to drop out because he has created a culture in the Burlington, Vermont Police Department of racism. But Pete Buttigieg's officers do it, who, by the way, Pete Buttigieg's officers literally shot and killed a black man in June, Eric Logan. I interviewed his brother while I was there in South Bend last week. They shot and killed him. 3 officers, no body cameras were on while they shot and killed him. Oh, by the way, Pete Buttigieg's police department, Pete Buttigieg's mayor, has paid nearly $3 million in legal fees to make sure a recording, who knows what's on the recording, where police were recorded potentially saying racist things about the black police chief who Buttigieg demoted and then fired. Buttigieg has spent almost $3 million in legal fees to bury that and make sure it doesn't get out. So this is a police department with a history of racism, a history of police brutality, yet Pete Buttigieg, the media is totally hiding the fact that his police department was just imitating Klansmen while arresting a black man. I'm not saying it's Buttigieg himself who made the comments, But I don't know. Should the mayor who hires the police chief, should police officers who report to the police chief, who the mayor oversees all of it, should he have to comment on clearly racist comments? Should he possibly have to fire the police officers involved? So let's read the text messages. This is a story I just broke the other day. After a controversial arrest where South Bend police officers were caught on tape, let me give you the link too so you could read along. We're all friends here. Oh, that's not it. Hold on. That's the tweet, so definitely retweet that tweet. We want to get this around to more people. Here's the story. After a controversial arrest where South Bend police officers were caught on tape reenacting a KKK scene from Django Unchained, South Bend Police Chief Scott Ruskowski, a close ally of presidential candidate and Mayor Pete Buttigieg, made a questionable claim to local activists, insinuating the officers on tape mimicking Klansmen were not from the South Bend Police Department. As Status Coup first reported, during an arrest of 21-year-old black male Marco Mosgrove on December 18th, Mosgrove live streamed his arrest. Interestingly enough, the original live stream was taken down from Facebook. Who is a big supporter of Pete Buttigieg? Mark Zuckerberg. Just throwing that out there. By the way, did you know that Status Quo's website went down 2 times in 1 week? Both times after I reached out to the South Bend Police Department for a story? Just went down. Isn't that interesting? After realizing they were being taped, South Bend police officers turned around his phone, turning the video black with the audio still running. At the tail end of the arrest, officers began imitating Klansmen from Quentin Tarantino film Django. Quote, "I can't see fucking shit out of this thing," an officer says while laughing, mimicking the scene where KKK members argue with one another over their Klan hoods not fitting their faces. "I think we could all agree these were a nice idea," the officer says, further imitating a Klansman during the Django scene. In text messages obtained by Status Coup between Police Chief Ruskowski and a local activist from the arrest, the police chief insinuated the officers mimicking Klansmen weren't from the South Bend Police Department. Quote, "Did you know it wasn't just South Bend cops there?" Ruskowski said to activist Wayne Hubbard. "I'll find out who, but I know it wasn't just South Bend cops," the chief continued. But a witness at the scene of the home where the arrest occurred told Status Quo the only police vehicles there were South Bend police cruisers. During the arrest, officers could be heard saying South Bend officer Devin Gilbert was the arresting officer, which a police report confirms. The report also listed South Bend Police as the arresting agency. South Bend Police Sergeant Kayla Miller can also be heard on the audio. In later parts of the text exchange, the police chief seemed to switch versions of his defense, pivoting away from suggesting the officers might have been from a different police force in favor of claiming the officers' comments weren't offensive. "I just told you nobody was making fun of anybody. Where did you even determine that?" the police chief told the activist. He added that he's never seen Django Unchained, but those who've, quote, researched said that line was actually was ripping on the KKK. "Did you ever see the movie? Did you know the part referred to by others is actually making fun of the KKK for being the idiots they are?" Hubbard, a black activist, responded that he did see the movie and, quote, didn't like it very much. Ruskowski said he won't deliver judgment until all the facts and context are gathered. In response, Hubbard did not mince words. Quote, "You know, you have the facts. The facts are the officers quoted a Django KKK line mocking the black kid that they arrested." Chief Ruskowski told Hubbard that once he identified the facts and officers involved, he would have the activists speak with them directly. 2 days after the chief's exchange with Hubbard, South Bend Tribune reported that the police department would investigate. 7 days later, Mayor Buttigieg has not addressed the audio of South Bend police officers reenacting the KKK scene while arresting a black male. His campaign nor his South Bend office responded to, I should have wrote Status Quo's request for comment. I'll have to fix that. Police Chief Ruskowski refused to elaborate to Status Coup on his claim that South Bend Police wasn't the only agency on scene at the arrest. So, I'm just going to read to you live my text messages with the police chief. Wouldn't that be fun? I'll just read them to you live because I got his number. And he responded, so that's cool. Harrison Chang, thank you for the $4.99 in the super chat. Pete built a coalition of finance bros, land developers, and racist cops. It's hard for cops not to be racist when the mayor is a racist. So you said it better than I can. So, let me read my text messages with the police chief. Once I find them. He wrote, when I reached out to him, asking him, could you comment on these text messages? Because you're claiming that you're basically telling an activist that it wasn't your police officers on the tape when the arrest report says South Bend Police Department. The arresting officer is a South Bend police officer. Witnesses say there's no other cars there, also known as you're lying to an activist. Those text messages are between Wayne and me, personal communication between us. With that, we have an internal investigation and we don't discuss them, he told me. So I said, you need an internal investigation to know whether other agencies were on scene, like you told Wayne? Seems like that would be a quick phone call to me. He wrote, I know who was on scene and when. So I wrote, then you should easily be able to tell the media if other agencies were on scene, which would make it plausible that the officers on tape reenacting the KKK scene weren't South Bend Police Department. He said, you could assume whatever you'd like. I'm not discussing an internal investigation. And I said, and since witnesses there told me they only saw South Bend Police Department cruisers, your statement is inconsistent. And I wrote, and no comment on your officers instructing other officers to turn their body cameras off? He said, read the policy. It's online for anyone to read. So, let's read along here. A law enforcement officer that I spoke with said it wouldn't take 9 days to investigate who was on tape making the comments within a couple hours, an officer told me. It would take to identify the officers. So they're not investigating shit. They're just counting down the clock and hopes the media doesn't pick it up. That's why Pete Buttigieg is not saying anything. They're just hoping the media will cover for them and not make a big deal about this. On Chief Rozowski muddying the waters to claim the officers caught on tape mimicking Klansmen weren't from South Bend Police Department, the law enforcement official told Status Coup that's the way he is. He told me a couple other things off the record, but needless to say, this police chief, known as a liar. Beyond reenacting Klansmen from Django, a female officer could be heard instructing other officers to stop recording their body cameras. The command came after an officer described their face shields as skull masks. You were recording or you were not? The female officer asked a male officer after the stop recording command. I'm not now, the male officer responded. Activist Vernado Malone, a member of South Bend Justice, told Status Coup that he went to the police station after arrest to find out who were the officers on tape. Quote, the third shift captain spoke to me and told me that the officer was Sergeant Miller, who was there. Sergeant Kayla Miller of the South Bend Police Force. Status Coup can't confirm whether Miller, a female officer, instructed officers to turn off their body camera, but male officers could be heard addressing Miller in other parts of the tape. During Chief Rudzkowski and Hubbard's exchange, the chief defended shutting off the body cameras. Quote, they were turned off because nobody was there. It was all cops. The dude was already gone. He's talking about the black guy that got arrested. I don't know what all happened, but I know nobody but cops were in the house. Police body cameras have served as a hotbed issue dogging Buttigieg in the South Bend Police Department following the death of Eric Logan, which I just told you about. An official complaint has been filed by the family of Mosgrove, who was the black 21-year-old arrested, with Internal Affairs of the South Bend Police Department. The 21-year-old remains in jail. The boy's mother, I'm going to mispronounce her name, Dial Eshanalayan, and family spokesperson Vernado Malone says the police department has not reached out to them for the original audio of the arrest and the officer's comments, leaving one to wonder how exactly they are conducting an investigation, because the Facebook live stream was taken down. So the police department tells South Bend Tribune they're investigating, but the video is taken down off of Facebook. Thankfully, somebody clipped it, so I have access to the video, but it's taken off Facebook. So they haven't reached out to the family who has the original audio, so what exactly are you investigating? The mother said the South Bend Police Department has a history of racism. She also said the comments weren't fair or funny, referencing the police officers imitating Klansmen. Quote, "We're supposed to be able to trust them, and they're here to serve and protect, and that's not what's going on." Mayor Buttigieg, whose campaign was previously caught by The Intercept inventing black support in South Carolina, and whose national support among black people has hovered in the low single digits, was criticized during the most recent Democratic debate for his political inexperience. So, let me just break this down for you, okay? You have a police department that nationally has gotten some media coverage about how racist it is, how corrupt it is. Buttigieg is the mayor. He's in charge of the police department. He has essentially allowed this. And by the way, obviously, South Bend Police Department ain't the only racist police department out there. I mean, I give you Detroit, I give you Flint, I give you New York City, I give you Milwaukee, I give you Cleveland. I mean, it's not all police, not every single police officer is bad. I know police officers that I've spoken with who hate their chiefs, who hate the corruption. So it's not all of them are bad. But you have Pete Buttigieg as according to the polls, the front runner in Iowa, who is silent while his police officers were imitating Klansmen while arresting a black man. Oh, by the way, during it, a female officer told other officers, shut off your body cameras. And then you have the police chief, who Buttigieg appointed, lying and saying it wasn't South Bend Police on the tape. You would think if it wasn't South Bend Police Office on the tape, if there were other agencies like Mishawaka, which is down the road from South Bend, or St. Joseph's County, which South Bend is part of St. Joseph's County, you would think that the South Bend Police Department would immediately want to put out that information and say, we're investigating who was the officers on the tape. But to an activist that night, and I didn't read all of the text messages between the chief and the activist, but he's trying to lie and say, well, there were other agencies there, so you don't know that it was my officers. And then he can't keep up with his lies, so he moves from lying about who made the comments to then making it seem like, oh, you're misunderstanding. It wasn't glorifying Klansmen. It was imitating. It was mocking the Klansmen. Does this man understand, a white man, that in no circumstance is it okay for public officials, especially white officials who we pay for them, to play out scenes from movies of Klansmen during their march to kill and lynch black people? Do you think he's a little tone deaf, or maybe has some, I don't know, institutional racism himself, to be telling a black activist via text message, oh, I haven't seen the movie, but those who've researched said they were actually making fun of the KKK, so it's okay that my officers were doing that. I mean, it's it's like the Twilight Zone. It's like the Twilight Zone. And in a sane world where we had responsible media, and again, for those of you watching, if you're on Twitter, there's the tweet, retweet it. We're almost at 300 retweets. The more tweets we get, the more retweets, the more the story gets around. So I just find it unbelievable. And to be clear, to be fair, Pete Buttigieg didn't make the comments, but he is the mayor. His police chief is lying to local activists. His police chief is lying to journalists and trying to make it seem like, oh, it wasn't us. It wasn't the South Bend Police Department. I'll be happy to have egg on my face if he could come out and provide proof that it was officers not from the South Bend Police Department. But as a journalist, all I could do is look at the arrest report, speak with eyewitnesses at the scene, I called St. Joseph County, I called St. Joseph County, I called Mishawaka, but being that it was the holidays, I couldn't get a straight answer. But I got news for you. If that was Mayor Bernie Sanders of Burlington and the same exact story and his police chief was lying about it, do you think the corporate media would wait a half hour before they demanded comment from Bernie Sanders? But here you have Pete Buttigieg, who, in addition to his police department being racist, in addition to them hiding controversial recordings, here you have the leader in Iowa who has a Frederick Douglass plan for Black America, who, oh, by the way, we are making a video and possibly even a mini documentary of his Pete Buttigieg demolished 1,000 homes in 1,000 days, mostly in poor Black and Latino neighborhoods in South Bend. And he didn't rebuild them. He didn't put any money to try and repair them. Just demolished them. Out of sight, out of mind. Didn't try to help the homeowners repair them. Just spent a lot of money to get rid of them. And, oh, by the way, his administration paid to get Black-owned businesses to leave South Bend. You never hear this in the media. So it's unbelievable to me. Status Quo is going to keep breaking these stories. And the more we break these stories, the more these politicians will be forced to address it. The more we break these stories and get it around social media, guess what? The more accountability will come. Guess what? The more we're going to force the corporate media to cover it. In this case, South Bend Tribune picked up the original story. That's why I'm trying to get more retweets and it circulated on Twitter more, because the more we get it circulated on Twitter, the more we're going to force local outlets to cover this. Pete Buttigieg should have to comment on his officers imitating Klansmen while arresting a young Black man, tell the command officer, turn off your body cameras while doing it. Are you kidding me? Thank you for the super chat. Chris Bedford, $5 in the super chat. Good job reporting from the field. Take down the corrupt weasel ferret. You know who. Thank you for the kind comment. Oh, by the way, we're now at 750. We got a new member, so we're at 750 Status Quo members. I would love to get that number up while we're live. It's the end of the year, our last live stream of the decade. For those of you on the fence, you can become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. This is how we grow, folks. This is how we grow. Statusquo.com/join. It's how we fund real reporting. So before I get to more campaign news, we got to address Elizabeth Warren. Boy, she might have to start begging more rich people for money. Her campaign's struggling financially. Before we get to that, I want to show you some more of my original reporting from South Bend. You are funding this. This is an interview I did with local Black Lives Matter leaders. We spoke, I literally started at 8 in the morning and we finished our interview at 11:30 at night. I'm not going to play the whole thing. We'll post it on YouTube. But this is the kind of stuff you're never going to see in corporate media. And frankly, there's not enough independent media doing this kind of reporting. But this is more more of a window into Pete Buttigieg. And it's not just Pete Buttigieg, by the way. This is what black people, minorities are dealing with, and more white people that are poor. Oppression they're dealing with in neoliberal America. Here we go. Hey, it's Jordan, still here in South Bend, Indiana, and a little late night chat with some leading activists here, specifically in the Black Lives Matter movement, which has really gotten some much needed attention for South Bend in the last few months. And I've been here for a few days. Obviously, my focus has been bringing attention to presidential candidate Pete Buttigieg and kind of putting out or trying to, show some more of the reality as opposed to the media picture that's been painted about him. But I really want to get into South Bend issues tonight in addition to him. So let me first ask you, just as BLM leaders, what's been, before it was presidential candidate Pete, what's been your pattern of relationship going up against Mayor Pete and his administration? Have they been cooperative? Have they tried to get you at the table, or was it hostile pretty much from the front?
Well,
I should say Kat.
Hey, yeah, I'm Kat. So we've sat at the table, we've put things on the line, as far as like the implicit bias training and the Civilian Review Board with subpoena power. We've definitely advocated for those things and cultural competency and things like that. And it's kind of just been a no. So, yeah, we've definitely tried to do as much as we could with, speaking with the mayor and things like that, but it's been a no.
And was he at that table, or was it his administration folks? What was his direct involvement?
It was definitely Mayor Pete at the table, and it was just kind of like, we'll get back to you, or just no.
And was there any, because it seems like there's a pattern of him saying, well, we'll study the issue, or we'll hire a focus group or something like that. Was there any talk of that? Like, I need to analyze before making...
That's Mayor Pete's go-to move, like, okay, we're going to take that into consideration. We'll get back to you, or he just was like, no, I'm not interested in it. So, kind of left us with our backs against the wall.
And some people I interviewed earlier, kind of activists, specifically we were talking about homelessness, but they kind of indicated that he's made statements in the past, I don't know if he said it exactly like this, but like that he wants South Bend to be a place where affluent people could come. Obviously, you could see the real beautification of a certain 5 to 10 block radius. I mean, it's gentrification 101, but that he's kind of signaled that he wants it to be more of a business community, young professionals, maybe of a certain class, of certain color. Have you gotten the vibe that he really takes to heart issues of the black community, or that he's just trying to kind of do the bare minimum where he wouldn't be criticized?
Well, the working class is kind of non-existent to Mayor Pete at this point. I think South Bend overall is just a college town and a retirement place, and a place for elitists at this point. So, yeah, it's not anything that belongs to the working class or the poor or the African Americans to belong to. So,
and you've had a lot of experience with him too. You say some things he's tried. We were talking about homelessness before.
Some things. I just said on that one thing. Yeah, I don't want to make it seem like he's done a significant amount of things. Like, he really hasn't. But I think to her point, he's tried to push issues off. He said that he wants to study them. But in reality, we don't see any substantive change. So, for example, when she mentions that we push for a Civilians Review Board, where we've talked about implicit bias training, cultural competency tests for officers, he's not been willing to have that kind of conversation. So after the Eric Logan shooting, we came to him with a proposal to administer a cultural competency exam to.
I just want to make sure for the audience. Eric Logan was a 54-year-old black male. He was shot and killed by a white officer. The white officer's police camera was off. The white police officer claims that Eric Logan had a knife. They claim that he was breaking into cars. Again, the officer who shot him's body camera was off. So were two other officers at the scene. Body cameras were off. So it's been a very controversial topic.
So I'd like to just put some emphasis on that. Not only was it just a random police officer, he was actually a sergeant, 20-year veteran. So just to put that on the record too. So he's not
a sergeant. But the bottom line is you got three officers at the scene, including the one who shot him. No body cameras on. Sorry, Jordan.
So I was just saying that after he was murdered, we put a proposal before Mayor P to administer an intercultural development inventory test to officers. It's called IDI. And if you Google it, IDI South Bend, you'll see articles, local articles here, where we've talked about the importance of that test. And he said that he thought it was a little bit pricey because it was about $150 maybe to administer the exam to each officer on the force. It might have been $50. I can't remember exactly, but the total cost was about $60,000. He said that was pretty pricey, and that if they were to conduct some kind of test like that or administer it, it would have to go for an RFP, which means a request for proposals, because anything over about $20,000 or $25,000, the administration has to put out a request for proposals. Well, instead, he funded a study that costs about $181,000 that will look at police policies and then move towards reforming them and tracking whatever. We don't really know. I mean, again, if you look up, I think it's 21CP or CP21 at South Bend, you'll find that the council appropriated money for this study, but they didn't really even know what they were funding. And even some council members said, well, we asked some questions, but they didn't give us an explanation as to what the scope of the study is. So he got money for that, and we've met with those consultants and we've talked about our issues. But again, these are issues that we've already expressed and raised to his administration. So our issue was that, look, like, you have officers who allegedly are racist, and we know now, after going to 8 meetings, community advisory meetings, which have been called for by his Board of Public Safety, where we've discussed police policy and police training and police hiring, firing, and promotion practices, that your officers are not receiving enough cultural competency training or implicit bias training. In fact, it's not even required training. Okay, so we're saying you need to first understand where your officers are as it relates to cultural competency, and then from there, develop a plan as to how they will become more culturally competent. And if they're found to be if they're found to lack cultural competency, they don't need to be in our communities. It's well within your ability to have your chief of police remove those possibly racist or at least biased police officers from our communities. You can do this right away. That's why Tiana said at the meeting, the town hall meeting that was disrupted during the summer at Washington High School, that you can administer this exam and reorganize your department by Friday. I mean, you can administer this exam to your officers and you will get results within 2 hours. Like, we put that tool before you. We've done the work. That's what you want, is for people to step up. You want this to be a participatory government democracy. You want to empower residents. Well, we're in power and we want them out. And this is how you can determine, as you just said, if any officer is found to be racist. Well, we're not saying they're going to be found to be racist, but they might lack in the kind of cultural understanding that they would need to properly police our communities. Now you have a measure that will help you determine who needs to be removed from our communities. But he said that will be too pricey at $60,000, and he decided to commission a study for $181,000 with no scope.
You know, it's interesting. I was going to latch on to that phrase. He said it would be too pricey. correct me on the numbers because I could be wrong. Didn't he spend $25 million on a skater park here? A park for skaters? Hasn't he paid obscene amount of money to put statues in roundabouts to beautify certain areas? I don't even say that as I'm really asking. Hasn't he spent a very obscene amount of money for optics, but for things like making sure his police who have lethal weapons aren't, at worst, racist, at best, incompetent? He says $60,000 is too much money. See, to me, that shows somebody's worldview and priorities. It seems that it's not too expensive if it will give tax abatements to business to bring in more business. It's not too expensive if it will, artificially lower the unemployment rate. But it is too expensive if it's for working people or vulnerable people of color.
But I think it's to hit the nail on the head. I mean, like, you probably wouldn't even need any money if he's viewed those tapes. I mean, you just get rid of those people. You probably don't even need to.
According to former communications officer, Kat, what's her name?
Karen DePape.
Karen DePape, who just went on a radio show. He's heard the tapes.
Yeah.
So the tapes, if you don't know, are allegedly.
Come on now. Now, P is a master of language, all right? So he's right. He did not hear the tapes. That's what it says. I didn't hear what was on the tapes.
He made sure he didn't hear them.
Yeah, he made sure that he did not hear those. But his attorneys know, based on her testimony, what is on the tapes.
Yeah.
So they are aware of what potentially is on the tapes.
And this was the tapes where officers were making racial comments about a black police officer. You, I guess, rabble-roused at one of Pete's campaign things a couple of weeks ago. For those that didn't see it, why did you feel the need to interrupt his event, and what's been your experience with the mayor and Igor?
Yeah, Igor, thanks. Sure. I mean, why did I feel I need to do it? Certainly wasn't very thought out, but
Just the national attention.
Sure, yeah. But just to go back to what we were talking about earlier, because I think it would answer your question, is that it's important for people to know that the members of this organization have been working with the South Bend government for years and really are very engaged. And the example that Jordan was just giving is where people in the city have an awareness of the problems and they have a sense of what we need to do to get some solutions. So I don't really see, I just don't want it to make it too much about Pete Buttigieg, because this is not really a surprise that these solutions, things that could work, things could actually move the conversation forward. It's not a surprise that they're not picked up on. And a flimsy excuse like it's too expensive, right? It's a national crisis, but it's too expensive. So I really think that it's more of just about the type of politics, not Pete Buttigieg, but the type of politics that he's used to doing. And the idea, or the conclusion that we've come to is that it's the type of politics where there's conversations, you meet with people in the community, but then there's this strategy of just drop it and hopefully it'll go away. And that's been Pete Buttigieg's response to everything, is let's have talk and then let's just leave it at that. And what happened at Washington High School, I think, is basically where Pete Buttigieg finally realized that people, as I said, people in the community have been asking for that conversation, not just asking for it, but engaging in it. And now we're fed up because this just now seems just like a strategy. Just keep talking, and meanwhile run for president and just leave the problem behind.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely feel like the advisory meetings, there's a series of 8 meetings, was just intended to keep the community busy. It was a smokescreen, to boil it down. keep them busy so that I can continue my campaign here. The public border safety just rendered some new policies, updated policies with the body cams and things like that. But for A series, it just seems like to me that all the implementations from the community would have been, there would have been more. You know, this what they're trying to give us with the body cams is just the bare minimum. You know, it's just, and it just sets the tone to how Pete operates. You know, he's just very,
I mean,
yeah.
speaking of the body cameras, they were just caught on hot audio the other day. I mean,
Right.
you had a black man being arrested. He was smart enough to live stream it.
Right.
The police officer, says they're recording. They turn around the phone thinking that's going to end it. It made the phone go black, but the audio was still running. But you hear them say, turn off your camera, this and that. There's also comments where officers are reenacting a KKK scene from Django Unchained. So I was just referencing, like, you could hear them saying, turn off the recording, turn off this. So it goes to this just, you were saying, a lot of this seems like a smokescreen.
Yeah, it's just creating an illusion.
I just want to say, like, even on that situation, I mean, we do want to be careful and make sure that we listen, closely to the tapes before we jump to conclusions.
I listened 6 times, but yeah.
No, I believe I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong, but before because anything we say, they're like, oh God, they're gonna watch this and go like crazy, and then Chief Ruskowski, they're gonna put out some statement saying, oh no, we didn't find that, but Black Lives Matter is making this claim. So we are gonna, do our due diligence.
I could just tell you, journalistically, the chief was putting out information that it actually wasn't South Bend police there, and then I found the police report, and it was. The arresting officer was a South Bend police officer. The agency was South Bend police. I had 3 witnesses at the scene tell me the only cars there were South Bend police. So maybe there's a phantom police force in his mind. But I understand from your point of view, you want to gather the facts. But from what I've been told by multiple residents, there seems to be a pattern of misinformation that goes on from the police department.
Bring up this stuff, yeah.
I think, we don't know exactly what's, for instance, on these tapes that people are asking, the police department tapes, secret tapes. But if you just look at the way that the police has been operating, and there's a presidential, their mayor is running for president, like their boss, basically. There's all this uproar, and you have police feeling really comfortable doing this kind of stuff. So that sets a picture. And there's lots of examples of this where, for instance, the public advisory meetings after the death of Eric Logan, the attendance just dwindles and dwindles and dwindles, and you have police showing up.
So that's just some of that interview I did, and that was like, whew! I had been going with my camera person, Jamal. We literally did like 5 or 6 interviews that day, and started at like 8 in the morning, and that was at like 11 o'clock at night. So we're burning the midnight oil in the field, but we're gonna post that on the YouTube on this YouTube channel. We're gonna cut it up because it's a bit of a longer interview, so we'll cut it up into different parts. But honestly, whether it's Pete Buttigieg, South Bend, Indiana, what we're showing you in the field is the effects of oligarchy, imperialism, white supremacy. That's what it looks like. And it's not just, by the way, obviously black people are treated unequally economically, socially, by police. But the chickens are coming home to roost for pretty much all people right now, including poor white people. They might not be bloodied up as bad by the police, but poor white people are being left behind in Pete Buttigieg's America, in South Bend. Poor white people are being strangled economically by the same policies Joe Biden is for and enacting. So it's kind of crossing color lines at this point, because The only color that really matters to people like Pete Buttigieg, Joe Biden, is the color that matters to the people keeping them in office, the donors. And that's green. That is green. So make no mistake about it. We're going to continue covering these stories. We're going to continue as much as funding will allow. We don't have a massive donor or investor. I wish there was like a pure progressive who's truly progressive who would invest and fund this whole thing. We are looking for that, to be clear. We are looking for an investor, particularly a progressive investor, somebody who understands that they're investing in us, but it's us, not them. They would not control our stories, what we say, what we cover, how we cover it, but they are aligned with us and what we believe is important to cover and the stories that we champion. But that's not an easy thing to find. I'm not going to bore you with the behind the scenes, but it's not very easy to find wealthy individuals that do care about this and do want to fund this type of reporting. So because we're not willing to sell out, because we're not willing to just go do behind the scenes meetings and take money from the very people creating this misery, it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder to fund this kind of reporting. That trip, just 4 or 5 days, cost us probably between $3,000 and $3,500 because we stayed for an extra day and, last minute flights, extending hotels, rent the cars, that could cost you over $1,500 right there. So, Jen and I are working as many different angles as we can, to get the money. You guys have been amazing with the GoFundMe this year. We finished that $85,000 we raised. A lot of that GoFundMe money has already been spent. I mean, look, we don't just talk. We did it. We told you this is what we're going to use your money for, and we did it. It's not just travel that we use that GoFundMe money for. We had to buy an expensive piece of equipment that is now allowing us to go live from places like South Bend without the choppiness and the buffering. That cost us $11,000, that piece of equipment. We need to spend money to advertise because we're being suppressed on YouTube and other places. That's not cheap either. Right now, we're using a camera person and paying him per event. So that's, it costs us. I brought him to the South Bend. Just for that person, it cost $800, and I wish I could pay him more. So all of this costs money. So I hope you understand why we're asking for you to, whether it's super chats, definitely membership. If you could swing it, it's as cheap as $5 a month. I'm starting to see comments from more people saying like, oh, I was a member to this place I'm not going to mention, but I think you know what I'm talking about. I was a member with this network, but I canceled it and became a member to you. I'm not telling you to cancel memberships there or elsewhere, but what I am saying is I mean it, and I see it when I'm out in the field. There's nobody else doing this kind of reporting. And if they are, they're not marketing it correctly. There is nobody else doing this kind of reporting. So if you value it, I hope at the very least become a member. statuscoup.com/join. So, woo! Donate to Andrew Yang. I actually just slammed Andrew Yang on Twitter because he's a fraud. He got exposed this morning, actually. For moonwalking away from Medicare for All. Of course, the Yang Gang is going to defend him because, he could fart gasoline and they would defend him. But, yeah, Andrew Yang, I like some of his ideas. I believe in universal basic income as a concept. I don't think his universal basic income is correct. But other than that, he's kind of a libertarian tech bro. He doesn't really believe in a strong minimum wage. That's a disqualifier for me. He uses Republican talking points when it comes to the minimum wage. That's saying, it will, increase costs for businesses and businesses will have to lay people off. That's a Republican talking point. I don't believe in that. And now originally he was running ads saying he was for Medicare for all. He came up with a Medicare for all. He came out with a health care plan, which isn't Medicare for all. It's not even a public option. And he was called out for it this morning, and he really had no answer. So, whatever. A. Myers, $4.99 in the super chat. Do you have a list of events Marcus is attending in Iowa? I'd like to talk to him. He just got there as we get events, because politicians usually email 2 or 3 days before they're going to have events. So as we get events, we'll be posting on our Twitter, @StatusCoop, on our YouTube. You'll know where he's going and where he's going to be. So definitely. And by the way, we're sending Marcus out. It ain't cheap. Not cheap to have him there for weeks in Iowa. But we believe there is nobody out there other than us that are going to cover these rallies, that are going to interview these voters. And we believe it's important to give the microphone back to the people. That's why we exist. So help us do it. So let's get to Elizabeth Warren. Oh, poor Elizabeth. And by the way, I don't know if my girlfriend will like this very much. She is watching, I believe. But we have a breaking news alert. My girlfriend Anat, who I love dearly, she was on the wrong side. She was on the wrong side. She was supporting this one for a while. She was supporting her over him. She liked him, but she thought, Bernie's a little younger, Warren's a little younger, it's time for a woman, blah, 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 blah. Well, the other day, she told me, I'm back on the burn. I'm back on the burn. She watched the last debate, and Bernie, she remembered why she supported Bernie in the first place. So, not all Warren supporters are bad. And I believe folks like my girlfriend, God bless her, there's still time for them to see the light. There's still time for them to see the light. She says, I always liked Bernie and voted for him in 2016 in the primary. Dude, don't do that to your girlfriend. I mean it with love. But she's back on the righteous side, so we love her even more. I'm going to get a scolding later. So, Elizabeth Warren, what happens when you show that you don't have any core convictions? What happens when you show that you're slipping and sliding all over the place? You're moonwalking away from Medicare for all. First you were with Bernie. Then you were kind of with Bernie. Then it was, Medicare for all is a framework. Then it was, it's a good pathway to the promised land. Then it was, I'm going to come up with a public option in 100 days, and I'll fight for Medicare for all in the third year. Then it became, I think we need choices. What happens when, regardless of the policy, forget Medicare for all, what happens when a politician shows they don't have core convictions? Well, in this new woke culture, in this new digital media culture, social media culture, where there's a lot more people informed, you start sliding in the polls. And you start losing money. Elizabeth Warren's campaign is down 30% this quarter. Quarter is the last 3 months, so October, November, and December. They're down 30% in donations compared to the last quarter where she raised $24 million. Senator Elizabeth Warren campaign told supporters in an email on Friday night it has raised just over $17 million in the fourth quarter, a significant drop from her fundraising during the third quarter. If the $17 million total stands, that would represent a 30% drop from the previous quarter. So let's be clear on something. And I tweeted this the other day. Forget Elizabeth Warren for a second. You kind of know how messed up our politics is. And you kind of know how suffocating and toxic money in politics is when, like, raising $17 million is considered, like, weak sauce. It's pretty damn impressive when Elizabeth Warren or Bernie or anyone raises $17 million, I mean, I'll have to see. We'll have to see what the average donation number is, all that. But if she's telling the truth, she still raised $17 million, mostly on small dollar donations. I mean, she says she's not doing lavish fundraisers right now. We know she did it in her Senate reelection. She says she's not raising money, from billionaires and this and that. We'll see what the average dollar donation is. For the last quarter, it was $28. That's an average donation to Warren, which was $1 more than Bernie's average donation in 2016 was. So it is impressive. Whether you like Warren or not, $17 million is still a lot of money to raise. Still a lot of money. But the media, because they don't understand or care about how toxic money in politics is like, well, she's 30% down. It's still impressive. But why is she down 30% from that 24 million? Why is she sliding to the point where in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, she's a pretty distant third place? Because as Donald Trump proved, even though he was completely full of shit, voters want to instinctually know. Voters will vote for people that they might not even agree with on policy completely. Voters will vote for people that they kind of find objectionable. A lot of Trump supporters do not like Donald Trump's antics. But voters have a problem in this day and age with people that they don't find authentic. Why has Joe Biden been able to prosper? Because the media has pushed this delusion that he's some authentic, union man, working man, friend of the working man, Joe Biden. As I reported earlier, he's no such thing. But the media pushed it. And Elizabeth Warren tried to push this thing that she's some folksy, blue-collar woman from Oklahoma. Jordan, are you in your wine cave? I wish. Wish I was in a wine cave. With progressive people funding me, of course. No, I'm not in a wine cave. And by the way, folks, today is, I shouldn't say today is day one because it's my brother's wedding tomorrow and I'm going to drink and eat very badly. But today I started an attempt to stay away from gluten for a little bit and to try and cut sugar out of my diet. So instead of having a large iced coffee with regular milk and sugar, I had a large iced coffee with almond milk, no sugar. Doesn't taste as good. Hopefully my taste buds change and it becomes tasty, but it didn't taste so good today. So that, I had sunny side up eggs this morning without any bread. And I'm going to have a salad after this. So I'm trying to cut out bread because I think I don't have celiacs, but I might have a gluten intolerance because even though I now have a mouth guard and I'm sleeping with a mouth guard for sleep apnea, I'm still fatigued. So I'm trying to cut out things that might be causing fatigue and see if I get more energy. So, now that I told you that thing that you didn't care about. So Warren's down 30% in donations. She's down in the polls. Why? I mean, it's not rocket science. The media has tried to spin it that she's down because Medicare for all is so toxic. Oh, by the way, if you're educated, if you're like a nutritionist, if you're a nutritionist or a doctor or a nurse or know anything about that stuff, email info@statuscoup.com. I would love your advice on what to do. I would love your advice on what to do. Because I do think I have a gluten intolerance. There's something else my girlfriend sent me last night that I might have. But I definitely think part of my issue is my diet. So I'm trying to change it. Jordan is dying. I'm not dying. Relax. So, Warren, she should have just been authentic from the beginning. She should have proposed, because obviously healthcare is not her main issue. Obviously, it's not something she's that passionate about. Her passion is regulatory reform. Her passion is regulating the banks, regulating every industry. She thinks we're going to change everything out of tighter regulation. I think regulation is important. I think regulation is definitely necessary, but regulation without taking out the money in politics will only get you so far. And by the way, there are regulatory bodies. There are regulatory bodies that are in place that don't regulate. I give you the financial crash in 2008 because of the suffocating effects of money in politics. The regulators aren't even allowed to regulate in a lot of cases. So Warren being down 30%, in fundraising is because even if people don't agree with you necessarily, they might still support you if they know you're being true, if they know you're authentic, if they believe you're going to have the courage of your convictions once elected. Elizabeth Warren's support is starting to slide because she has been sliding away from those positions. When healthcare is polling as the number one issue among many voters, and I have a plan for everything, but I'm changing my plan on healthcare as we go, people aren't going to trust you. People aren't going to trust you. Even if they like that you're educated, even if they like that, you'd be the first woman president, people are suffering. People are rationing insulin. People are choosing not to go to the hospital when they need emergency care. They're not going to support you if they don't believe it is a core conviction. And whether people believe that Bernie Sanders is too far left or this and that, they know where he stands because he's not running just for power. That's the difference. He's not running just to become president. He's not running because of ego. I'm sure he's got some form of an ego, but he's running because he truly has seen and believes that the only way to fix the system is to radically overhaul it. And I agree with him. And I think there's a lot of people that support Bernie Sanders, not only because of the policies, but because of the man, because of what they have seen him fight for. They know where he stands. So, Warren, I don't know. I mean, just as a objective analyst, I don't know how she rebounds because I don't really know what her core message is other than I have a plan. Well, you could have a plan for everything from sliced bread onward. But how are you going to get your plans through? Are you going to fight for the things you have a plan for? I don't know. I don't think she did exceptionally well in the last debate. I think her attack on Pete Buttigieg over his wine caves would have landed a lot better if she herself hadn't done the same lavish fundraisers like 5 minutes before she filed her presidential campaign, which he smartly called her out on. If Bernie Sanders went after Pete Buttigieg for the wine cave, he wouldn't be able to turn it around saying, well, you can't pass your own purity tests. So, this is not a surprise, folks. This is not a surprise. Do I think she has no chance at all to rebound? No. Right now, if it were today, the Iowa caucus, to me, I think you're looking at a coin toss between Buttigieg and Bernie. New Hampshire, I think Warren has more of a chance in. But to me, I think it's a race between Biden, Buttigieg, and Bernie. I think that I'm not telling Warren to drop out, but I think Warren's best bet, honestly, if she doesn't do as well as she expects to do in Iowa, and she doesn't do as well as she expects to do in New Hampshire, I think her best bet is to drop out after New Hampshire if she underperforms in Iowa and New Hampshire. If she doesn't win in Iowa and New Hampshire, if she underperforms, meaning comes in third or fourth place in either, I think her best bet is to drop out and endorse Bernie Sanders. At least give yourself a chance to be nominated as vice president for Bernie, which I know a lot of Bernie people would not accept. Thank you, Brian Frederick, $4.99 in the super chat. Mayor Pete's scam contest for the lower donation is a joke. I agree. I covered it last week. But I'm not expecting much from Elizabeth Warren unless she resurrects her campaign somehow, has an amazing debate, because the plan thing is done. People know you have a plan. People want to know, do you have a spine? Because a plan without a spine is just a bunch of wasted paper. Burn. So, before I get to the next topic, we got 600 people still watching. Remember, if you haven't, press that like button. If you're not a member, consider signing up to Status Coup for as low as a cup of coffee a month. It's how we're going to grow. I want to play another interview Marcus just did in the field at Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's rally. Hope you appreciate the reporting. I'll be back right after this video.
Marcus Ely here for Status Coup, and I am here with Miranda from Las Vegas. Can you talk to me a little bit about what brought you in to see Bernie and AOC today?
Yeah, well, I've been a Bernie supporter ever since 2016, and I'm going through a bit of a rough patch right now, and this rally is just what I need to get my spirit invigorated again, and any chance really I can come see him I'm going to be there. Yeah.
So, what brought you to Bernie? Like, what's your Bernie story?
Well, I am a college student, and I also work in the prescription insurance industry, and the stories I get every day about people barely being able to afford their prescriptions, and as far as the college goes, just my student debt like piling up and piling up. Even though I'm younger and I haven't lived through a lot of stuff, I feel like Bernie is the candidate that really understands all these issues and has the best solutions for them.
All right, definitely. So as far as like working in that specific field, what are some of the stories that you see on a day-to-day basis that you wish people would like see? Like some of the things that you see all the time that you wish folks would know about?
Well, for example, a lot of people, their co-pays for just maybe like 2 weeks worth of prescription is more than like a paycheck that they get. And the options given to them by their insurance to get these things covered, they are just not enough. And I have people who call every day who things like diabetes meds, blood cholesterol meds, things that you need to survive, they're barely being able to make it happen because their co-pays are so high.
All right, definitely. I hope that this sound is actually usable. We will find out in a moment. But yeah, so AOC in specific coming here. This is her first time at a Bernie rally in Las Vegas, and this turnout's the biggest I've seen for any Bernie event. What do you think AOC's impact has been, especially for women on the far left movement?
Oh my God! I mean, not only having a woman at the forefront of these issues and bringing them to light, but seeing a woman who just stands for what she believes in and is relatable regardless of what color you are, what your job is. It's just been really, really, really important, I think, for a lot of people, and women especially. Seeing someone with so much vitality, honesty, and drive in the issues that we care about really, 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 I think, brings just women out here and gives them the passion to volunteer, to go out there and spread the word. I just think she really empowers people to do that.
Thank you so much. I'm going to let you enjoy and get your vitality. I really appreciate you coming through and interviewing with me.
Real journalists wear pink. We'll have to talk to him, make sure the mic is a little lower, so it was a little too loud because the mic was like at her lips. But other than that, I thought it was great. And I don't know if I could pull off that pink blazer. But hey, these are real people. That's what Status Coup does. We speak with real people, give the microphone back to the people. So another great interview. And if you missed it, he's now in Iowa. He's going to be covering rallies and events in Iowa for the next few weeks for us. So definitely support us however you can in the super chat, or preferably sign up as a member. This is how we grow for the long term. So keep it coming. So this is getting no coverage. Some people disagree, but I agree with the Trump impeachment. I think he should be impeached for many things, but I do think he tried to bribe a foreign leader. But because the impeachment is 24/7 and the media covers nothing else, his administration just quietly shut down pollution tracking. No big deal. Federal database tracking pollution in the United States was retired earlier this month, drawing criticism from environmental advocates. ToxMap, an interactive map hosted by the National Library of Medicine and accessible to the public, allowed users to track pollution-producing factories and other environmental concerns, such as Superfund cleanup sites. However, on December 16th, all links to the application of the NLM website were deprecated, following an announcement from the agency in September notifying users that the site would be retired. On December 16, 2019, the National Library of Medicine, ToxNet, website will be retired, read the NLM's statement. Most content will remain available through other NLM databases as well as from external websites. Several resources in ToxNet came from other organizations, such as the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and will continue to be available from those sources. Some databases will be retired. Claudia Persico, an assistant professor at American University, specializing in public administration and environmental policy, told Popular Science that the site's depreciation was a blow to researchers. Quote, "I think it's really sad that they're getting rid of this. It was stunning to me that the National Library of Medicine is actually retiring this pretty essential tool for our environmental right to know." So, we're getting rid of pollution tracking databases. Oh, but, don't worry about it. You could go find the information elsewhere. We're, tripling fracking. We're repealing clean water standards, even though they were not enough, that Obama put in. Obviously, we withdrew from the Paris Accord climate change treaty. Not enough. Didn't go far enough, but was better than nothing. We're drilling in the Arctic. We're trying to privatize Native American reservations so we could drill. We're seizing public lands so we could drill. Forget that, corruption in smoke-filled rooms in the back. He don't care. Trump is going to... The whole world is going to be up in smokes. And that's why, to me, I find some people are just losing it. Saying like, Warren is terrible, so whatever. If she becomes the nominee, I'll vote for Trump. Or I won't vote at all. There's not going to be a planet if Trump gets another 4 years. Are you not getting this? I know that there's climate change truthers out there who don't believe in this. You could be progressively pure till your heart desires, but there's nothing to be pure about if the planet doesn't exist. This is not alarmism. This is reality. California has been on fire. The Everglades has been burning in Florida. It's like 50. It was 50 degrees the other day here in New York. During the winter. The Midwest, many parts of the Midwest are still underwater because of extreme storms from earlier this year that they don't normally have. More and more investors on Wall Street are investing in water because of the shortages all over the world. The next war will be over water. And people want to sit here and be like, well, if I'm not getting Bernie, I'm just going to sit it out. I think you're not realizing this is not normal circumstances. I'm for Bernie, okay? And I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. You vote for whoever you want. But this is not a matter of like lesser of two evils voting or whatever. This is a matter of the planet surviving. You literally, like, essentially, you have people saying the equivalent of if their child was in the home burning, the house was burning, their child was in there, the parents standing outside saying, well, I told them to turn the stove off. Too bad for them. And I see it everywhere I go, around the country. I see the effects of what Trump is doing. Weather that is not normal in most places. And it's not just Trump. Obviously, climate change is broader than just America. But fish are disappearing. Other sea life is disappearing. I'm not saying, like, close your eyes and if somebody other than Bernie becomes president, don't fight. Don't lead the charge against them. I would fight Warren just as hard as I fight anyone else. But you have a unique threat to planetary survival right now, on top of the racism and the corruption and all that. I don't cover Trump that much because, as I always say, I don't have much to add that's not being covered to death everywhere else. I like to cover things that aren't being covered. But when you're talking about keeping a habitable planet, I just don't understand the mindset of people who, frankly, to me, are extremists, saying, like, fuck it, let it burn. I'd rather Trump for another 4 years than, like, anybody but Bernie. That's ludicrous. There will be no progressive movement if there is no planet. There will be no workers' movement if there's no planet. There will be no Medicare for All movement, no climate movement, no anything movement. If you allow someone who doesn't understand the difference between weather and climate and doesn't care to understand, if you allow him to get another 4 years, and oh, by the way, Donald Trump has repeatedly joked about extending his term beyond 2 terms. You think if he gets reelected with a Republican Supreme Court, with a Senate that's Republican, that's sycophants for him, he wouldn't try to extend his term, change the Constitution, whatever he has to do? So I'm not for Warren, but there's bigger things than putting in a milquetoast liberal. Brian Frederick, Dow 99. Brian's total record is arguably worse than Trump. Not on the environment, pal. You're objectively wrong. Biden's not what we need on the environment, but it's just objectively wrong to say Biden is worse than Trump. And I don't like Joe Biden, but I just deal in facts. But thank you for the $1.99. Appreciate it. Rashid Barnes, $10. Deprecated like cake. Keep kicking ass, Jordan. Appreciate it. I've never even seen that word. Brian Frederick, another $1.99. Trump is owned by Saudi Arabia. Yeah, you're right. It's truly unbelievable to me. Which brings me to the final story of the day. We're going to do this story, and then I want to do a end of the year, end of the decade Q&A with the audience. World's richest 500 people saw their wealth jump 25% this year. Yeah. Just put Joe Biden there. That'll change things. In 2019, the world's richest 500 people saw their collective net worth jump by 25%, or $1.2 trillion, according to Bloomberg's Billionaires Index. Combined, the collective net worth of the world's 500 wealthiest individuals totaled $5.9 trillion. American billionaires alone added $500 billion to their wealth, with Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg gaining $27.3 billion, and Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates adding $22.7 billion. According to Bloomberg, just 52% of 52 people on the list saw their fortunes decline in 2019. One of those billionaires, Amazon's Jeff Bezos, whose worth dropped by $9 billion, though Bloomberg notes the decline is largely due to his divorce settlement. Oh, poor Jeff. And Bezos still ends 2019 as the world's richest person. The new report comes as wealth disparity remains a hot topic in the election and a growing source of frustration. A report earlier this year found that income inequality in the United States is at its highest point since data started being collected 50 years ago. Another report from this year found that the poorest Americans saw their income decline 7% over the last 15 years, while everybody else is gaining financially. Progressive lawmakers have recently called for tougher tax policies for the ultra-rich, including Representative Ocasio-Cortez calling for people to tax the rich, blah, 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 blah. 500 people saw their wealth jump 25%. Wow. What was it? The poor saw their wealth go down 7% over the last 15 years. And you wonder why Donald Trump was elected in the first place. It's astounding that this bank robbery, and I'll show it to you one more time, that this grand larceny of our money, our future, our productivity goes on with the majority voting to allow it to continue to go on. That's what you're voting for if you vote for Joe Biden. That's what you're voting for if you vote for Pete Buttigieg. That's what you're voting for if you vote for Donald Trump, Mitch McConnell, Elizabeth Warren to a lesser degree, a far lesser degree. You're voting for essentially the corporate inmates running the asylum. Thank you, Denise Columbia. $20 in the super chat. Happy New Year. 2020 is the perfect time for revolution. Keep doing your part. It's more important than most others, and that's why I'm a member. Today's reality requires brave tenacity, cursing, and lots of hope. Thank you so much, Denise. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being a member, too. Carl Knight, $10. While Trump has accelerated the climate crisis, voting for Biden or Warren wouldn't change the trajectory. Keeping an inhabitable planet requires a social movement outside of our two-party system. Yes and no, Carl. Keeping an inhabitable movement does require social movements, but who the president is, that sets the policy for our emissions, for our what corporations have to do, for what money goes to which sectors, for whether subsidies get cut. So unless we overthrow the government through social movements, literally overthrow it, who the president is matters. Is Joe Biden at all going to stop the planetary destruction if he allows fracking and these other things? No, he will not. But will Trump usher in planetary destruction quicker? Objectively, yes. That doesn't mean I support Joe Biden, but I'm just telling you facts. You could close your eyes, and just because you hate Joe Biden or Elizabeth Warren and think they're not Bernie, which they're not, but objectively, Trump is worse on the environment than all of those people. So you might be saying, well, the planet's still going to go to hell under Joe Biden, so what's the difference? Well, it's the amount of time. You have to give yourself as much time as humanly possible to stop this. You have Trump is literally palling around with the same president who is allowing and making the Amazon burn. Even Joe Biden isn't crazy enough to do that, or corrupt enough to do that. So I hear what you're saying, but they're not. It would change the trajectory as far as how quickly the end of the planet comes. So, but Joe Biden is not going to win, and that's the problem. I don't think Elizabeth Warren would win. You need to defeat Trump, and you don't win with those candidates. So, but to me, everything we've covered today is connected to this story. How is Mark Zuckerberg, who is presiding over Facebook as it steals your data and sells it to advertisers, presiding over Facebook, which just allows people to post whatever the hell they want, facts be damned, false information go all over the place on Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg, well, nothing we could do. We're a platform, not a publisher. Mark Zuckerberg sells data to Cambridge Analytica, which helps political candidates like Trump. And he goes up $27 billion. Jeff Bezos, whose Amazon is literally presiding, literally demolishing small business in America, is the worst monopoly probably since the 1920s or 30s we've had in this country. He's still rolling in it. Oh, he lost $9 billion to his ex-wife. Pennies. That's why I think that people need to realize Bernie is a once-in-a-generation type of candidate. Yes, there are now more disciples because of what Bernie has started, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, like Ro Khanna, other progressives on the state and local level. But there's only one Bernie. And he's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to change that, to take the government back. And it's not like he's going to be able to snap his fingers as president and do away with this bribery, with this theft of our money. It's going to take way more than Bernie Sanders. But at least you would have the right person leading the war. But when you have a system that allows people like Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and all these people to steal the wealth, that they are not creating the wealth. The workers are creating the wealth. And to steal this wealth, while people are rationing insulin, while 500,000 people are sleeping in the streets, while people are working 2-3 jobs, while people are not going to the hospital because they can't afford it, even if they have an emergency, even with insurance, by the way. While Native Americans and black people and brown people are literally getting cancers at crazy, crazy levels because their communities are where we're dumping all of these toxic factories, all of the waste, all of the mining, all of the fracking. We're putting pipelines through reservations and black communities and poor white communities so that these rich people, because the other people on the list, I promise you there's some oil people, this is why you got to vote, you got to organize, you got to do all those things. And they're trying to fight, they're trying to rig it, they're trying to screw Bernie out of it. It's happening behind the scenes as we speak. And I've reported suddenly people in California, voters in California are showing up. They registered to vote as a Democrat, but now they're showing up that they're not registered. I'm sure it's happening in New York as we speak. The same purges that coincidentally happened in all these critical states for Bernie, starting to happen now. From what I hear, his campaign is way more prepared for it this time and has way more legal resources this time. But this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, folks. So hang on. A little over 30 days left till Iowa. Thank you for the super chat. Did I miss one? Jim Garrison, $10. Feeling the status coup. We're feeling you too. Thank you. Trendy as Dabbers, $10. Jordan will hashtag back Bernie now, unlike so many other pundits. Scared to get Bernie 2020. It's shameful. If you support anyone else, you are the problem. Follow Bernie, Senator Sanders, Bernie Sanders. Thank you for the super chat. I've always been clear who I support. Legal resources, can you tell us more? Yes, an army of lawyers. If there are voter purges, if there's election rigging, if ballots suddenly are in short change, if polling stations are suddenly closed a week or two before, from what I've been told by several people close to the campaign, they got a lot more lawyers this time around. They did not. They did not have that in 2016. I could tell you that. And yes, I would check your voter registration for sure. DS Style Boxing, $2. Keep telling the truth. We will. We will. So before I get to the final Q&A, I want to play one more clip as I go to the bathroom. I've been going for 3 hours, so I kind of have to pee. One more clip from South Bend, and then we're going to do a final Q&A for the year. So lastly, to people in Iowa, New Hampshire, mostly white people, but broader to people in America, what's something we haven't talked about that you want them to know about Mayor Pete, South Bend, for when they're considering? I mean, Iowa's basically a month and a half, New Hampshire, same. What should people know that the media has failed about Mayor Pete and the conditions in his city?
Oh, well, I mean, I think the records and the data speaks for itself. Pete's pretty much dropped the ball when it comes to the population here in South Bend. He hasn't taken care of the police reform. He's let the homeless die in the streets. And he hasn't cared much about black people, if that concerns you at all. So yeah, I mean, he knows that there's racist cops on the police force, and they're still there. They're still working. They're still getting their weekly checks. They're still collecting their pensions. And so yeah, I mean, if that concerns them at all, definitely he doesn't care about housing and things of that nature. So yeah, those are things to look into.
Yeah, I would just add that, this isn't necessarily tied to like what he's done here or what people need to know about what he's done here. But I mean, maybe as far as, he hasn't properly represented the interests of poor and working class and black people here in this city. So if you're looking for a candidate who can create the same kind of energy as you saw when Obama ran, he's not that candidate. He can't bring out young people of color. I think we really underestimate the impact that young people of color had on Obama's presidency. When Obama ran, he got really no more of the white vote than Bill Clinton did. But what we saw when he ran was that an unprecedented amount of black people, of people of color, women of color came out and supported Barack Obama when he ran for the presidency the first time. And even more so the second time, I'm sorry, so both times, because the voter turnout among African Americans increased in 2012, higher than the white voter turnout, and that was unprecedented and had never happened in the history of America. So if you're looking for someone who can do that, Mayor Pete is not that person, because he does not have any support among African Americans or people of color or young people of color specifically. So I think that's what people should know. I mean, yeah, he's doing well in the very white and likely older states of Iowa and New Hampshire, but in the younger states, which tend to have more people of color and younger people of color, he's not doing well. So if you want to see a person who can carry the Democratic Party into the future, Mayor Pete is not that person. He's not even supported by his generation, his own generation, and that following him. So,
And for people who want to get involved with Black Lives Matter here in South Bend, where do they go? How could they participate?
yeah, so if you go, either you can follow us on Twitter at sign BLM South Bend. There is a link on our profile where you can donate. We definitely need people to support the movement work that we're doing here. We get a lot of requests from media and folks like, oh, will you speak on this, or can you come here and do this? But we don't have the money or the funds to do that. So if you believe in supporting Black organizing work, then you would support you should support an organization like ours. Also, we're on Facebook too, Black Lives Matter South Bend. If you go there, you'll find our information and you can donate. Reach out to us, shoot us your email. We'll add you to our email list, and just follow the work that we're doing here and support us with whatever you can contribute.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Talk about where that program came from. Okay, they won't talk about the number of activists that pushed for that program because his administration did not see that home repair was of any value. They didn't see that. Okay, well, we pushed for the Prosperity Now report, which was the report that showed the racial wealth divide here in South Bend. So he's like claiming it as something that he did to move the interests of the Black community forward, but in fact, that's not really true. We had to push for that. They didn't see the value in it.
Basically, these are things you did that he took credit for.
Of course, I mean he's a colonizer, yeah. So when you look at what that report showed, it clearly showed that.
So we're going to be posting a lot of those clips on the YouTube channel. So we really enjoyed speaking with Black leaders in South Bend, Indiana, and hope you enjoyed the reporting. Thank you, Lara Hamilton, $1.99. Appreciate your work so much. Thank you, D-Style Boxing, $2. Keep telling the truth. We will. So, got still 470 people watching. Not bad for hour 3.5. I want to just end with a little rapid fire here. Obviously, appreciate super chats. Keep it coming in the super chat if you can. This is a big way we fund. We also have two new members so far today. So hopefully a couple more of you will sign up today, get us a little bit higher to the final year membership numbers. We definitely, this is how we grow. So welcome Genevieve, welcome Daniel. So we're now at 751 Status Coup members. I would love in the next few minutes to get, maybe if there's a miracle somewhere this holiday season, we could get up to 760. But it's going to take people deciding, hey, this is what I need. I need Status Coup, and I'll do it for $5 a month. So, hit me. Questions, comments, concerns, super chat if you can. Very sober, serious, thoughtful show today, Jordan. Why, thank you, Henry. I appreciate it. Lou L. Jordan, who do you want for Bernie's VP and why? I've said this before. My first choice would be Nina Turner. I cover politics for a living, and I have a pretty strong BS detector, and I think Nina Turner is just salt of the earth, genuine. I think she brings something to Bernie's campaign, and Bernie, as far as being a strong African-American woman. I also think that she could connect with people on a different level than Bernie can, because she has that, not that Bernie isn't an organizer, but Nina has been organizing most of her adult life. I also think she's young. I think she's in her late 40s, maybe early 50s. And listen, I ain't a religious person, but you go hear Nina Turner talk, you're ready to go to church. And frankly, I don't think Bernie needs another like politician with, credentials. I mean, Bernie's been a mayor, a congressperson, a senator. Bernie's more than qualified. So some might say, well, she was only a state senator. I think that's a good thing. I think it's good that she doesn't have a long political resume, to tell you the truth. So Nina Turner is it for me. And if you're just talking politics too, I am for her. Not her skin color is just an added bonus. That's not why I want her. But if you're just talking politically and strategy, doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to have an old white guy in attracting the black vote. To have a strong, younger black woman. I mean, that's just the truth. So Nina's by far my first pick. Thoughts on why Castro or Booker haven't been getting the liberal bump? Because they're both weak sauce. Any idea when the next members call is going to be? We're not going to do it before the new year. Just scheduling didn't happen. So early next year, we'll have our members call. Which, if you're a Status Coup member, good reminder, you get invited to our members call. Always a lot of fun. It's a video call through Zoom. And if you're a member, you'll get the invite. We'll have it early next year. So definitely, if you want to get on that members call, those who have been on it can share. It's a lot of fun. We probably share way too much that we shouldn't. Statuscoup.com/join. Statuscoup.com/join. You shouldn't want anyone based on their skin color, bro. That's racist. Well, if you heard me, that's not why I want her. I want her because of her. But I am saying the fact that she's a strong African-American woman, I think is a good thing. I think she'd be the first female vice president, but she'd also be the first black woman in president, vice president. She'd be the first woman as vice president, much less president. So I don't think it's a bad thing to say that. That's not the main reason, but having a strong black woman, I think, is a positive thing for the campaign. So I don't know if she will stand up as fiercely as Tulsi to the Pentagon. I think Tulsi, first of all, whether the vice president stands up to the Pentagon or not, it's important, will the president stand up? And I do think Bernie will stand up to the Pentagon. I do. Based on everything he's done, based on his career record. Is foreign policy his first priority? No. It is Tulsi's first priority. But I think, honestly, whether fair or not, I think Tulsi's got so much baggage that it would harm Bernie's campaign at this point if she was his vice president. I'm just being honest. Whether right or wrong, whether fair or not, to me, why would Bernie Sanders want to bring somebody on that the media is already going to be going after Bernie Sanders? You don't have to be giving them more because they're going to say, oh, Bernie's now an Assad apologist, this, that, the other thing. Politically, strategically, it's not the right move. But putting that aside, I personally think Nina Turner is a stronger choice than Tulsi Gabbard. That's my opinion. I don't know. Optics. I don't know. Where was this? I don't know. Optics. Yang's their token minority. Nah. Yang's a libertarian tech bro. No. Carl Knight, $10 in the super chat. Your relationship with your colleagues at Status Coup and your subscribers seem more intimate now than at TYT. How has that transition been for you professionally? That's a good question, and thanks for the super chat. Yeah, it's more intimate because this is ours. Like TYT. I was personally in the trenches, but like I wasn't part of TYT's business. I wasn't in those meetings to about TYT's resources or how we're going to grow, those kind of things. I just focused on reporting and this and that. Whereas with this, you're more. I mean, it's ours. It's so you definitely have a closer relationship with those you work for, and with because you're kind of in this small boat, which is status quo, a startup, and you're just paddling together to try and keep it going and make the boat bigger, if that makes sense. So, yeah, we're definitely closer. I'm definitely closer to the people at Status Quo than I was at TYT because of that. How'd you get into journalism? Well, I wouldn't call Fox News journalism, but I interned at Fox News, which led to a job at Fox News. Then I got so disgusted at Fox News, I went to MSNBC. Then I realized, wow, corporate cable news is just terrible, whether it's Fox News or MSNBC. They're both terrible. But how I got into like the type of journalism I do now is more because I was starting to see more and more stuff ignored in New York when I worked at MSNBC. Homelessness never talked about. The income inequality never talked about. Stop and frisk under Bloomberg never talked about. And I was just always a sucker towards injustice and corruption. I don't know if it's because like when I was younger, I kind of felt like an outcast in many ways. It's a longer story than we have today. Nothing major, but had trouble making friends, was in special ed, so I kind of felt different. I got pulled out of class in front of other students. It just wasn't easy for me to make friends, and I always kind of felt like on the outside looking in. So I guess for me, in a weird way, I always gravitated towards those I thought were on the outside looking in, which to me is the working class. To me is minorities. To me is, frankly, poor whites, poor blacks, poor Latinos, definitely Native Americans. I mean, so that's, to me, journalism is my activism. And to me, I wanted to be a journalist because I want to lift those people's voices. I also want to expose the people that are creating their misery. So that's how I got into it and why I got into it. Middle finger to TYT. That's funny. A black woman, will be in the White House, and she won't be cooking. Rosaline Cash, wrong is right. Greg Vera, I'm joining as a member today because I resonate more with Jordan's political stances and policies more than any other online informer. Well, thank you, Greg. We appreciate it. Sign up, statusquo.com/join. I hope you're also joining because you want to support actual reporting. Other people have been compared, like, Jordan, stop asking for money. Kyle Kalinske doesn't ask for money. Jimmy Dore doesn't ask for money, blah, 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 blah. I love all those people, but that's like apples and oranges. God bless them. I'm not knocking them, but they're not like reporters going out in the field. They don't need to raise $2,000 to $3,000 to go out into the field per trip. We have a completely different expense than they do. So yeah, if we didn't travel at all, if we didn't cover stories in the field, I wouldn't have to ask for money because we're making enough right now on YouTube and membership where we wouldn't really need to ask for money. But we have an extra, way more expenses than they do. And it doesn't mean we're better than them. We just offer something different. So thank you. Join as a member. We got 450 people watching, and I would venture to guess a lot of you are not members. So I'll remind you, you're not signing up as a member so like Jen and I could go to the casino. Trust me, we don't. You're funding actual reporting. This, like, scratching together pennies, we've been able to do all this in the last year and a half. And we want to do a lot more and add a lot more to that map this coming year. And maybe even expand it beyond America. But we need funding to do that. That's why we set up membership as low as humanly possible. You become a member for as low as $5 a month. You also get bonus content, behind-the-scenes content, behind-the-scenes members calls. You join us for a members call. So we're trying to make it worth your while, too. Nina Turner is fire. Let's see. Tulsi would have to work hard to get back into people's good graces. She kind of stepped off a ledge. You know, Kim, I got to be honest with you. And whatever, people could criticize me, and I know Jimmy loves Tulsi, and there's other people who like sees no wrong with Tulsi, and that's fine. I happen to like Tulsi Gabbard a lot. I would certainly vote for her over Trump. No, 100%. Bernie's my first choice, but Tulsi's second. But I just don't agree with Tulsi Gabbard's mentality, and I know it attracts certain people. But this whole like kumbaya, you know, the country's so partisan, we need to bridge the partisan divide, throw out the labels, blah, 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 blah. That's nice. That's all well. But you know what? I've heard that from pretty much every politician running for president about partisanship and we need to unite the country and yada, yada. I actually think Tulsi Gabbard's sincere. I think she means it, whereas others don't. But to tell you the truth, there's a reason the country is divided. And it's because people are economically hurting. People are economically desperate. And if you look up fascist countries and the history of fascism, fascism develops because of economic desperation and hunger and anger. So, you know, I disagreed with Tulsi's vote on impeachment. I think if you're a leader, I think if you want to run for president, you have to make a decision. Yeah, the process is partisan, the Democrats are corrupt, all that is good and well, I agree. But at the end of the day, dodging whether the president committed impeachable crimes is not leadership. And to me, when you say, like, I'm trying to, you know, build towards the center and I'm trying to reach the center, I don't want to build towards the center. No, we want to build to the left, not the center. So that's what I think about that. And we just got 2 new members. Wow, welcome to the party. New member Doris, new member John. Welcome. We are now at 750, what was that? 752 members now. 752 members. Can we get to 760 before the end of this live stream? The last live stream of the year, the last live stream of the decade? Let's do it. Bernie's problem is that he is also a career politician, and the U.S. needs young, energetic, new blood in Washington. The system cannot be overhauled by career politicians. It's best if we stay home. Jerry, I could not disagree more. Yeah, technically Bernie's a politician, but he's one hell of a different politician. He's not perfect, but this mentality, stay home, well, if you want to stay home and just watch the planet burn down, if you want to stay home and see more homeless people freeze to death, if you want to stay home and ration more of your insulin, stay home. But change is possible. Greg Palast, who's another great investigative journalist that has been made an outcast by corporate media, he said, yes, they rig the elections, but they can't rig all the elections all the time. If you overcompensate for the rigging, if you get more votes, that even if they rig it, even if they purge a lot of the voters, you still have more than them, you win. And I agree with that. So, Jerry, I don't agree with you. God bless you, though. Kim Hardin, Nina Turner will get the black vote, which is what is needed to be president. Yes, but I think that she will help get a lot of working class whites, too. Yes, there's a lot of racism in the country, but a lot of white people voted for Obama anyway. I think Nina Turner will appeal to working class people and, of course, black people who might not dislike Bernie, but might not feel like a natural connection to Bernie for some reason. Ben Brody, $2. How much further do you think Klobuchar will go? I think Klobuchar will go. I think she'll go past Iowa. I think she's not going to do well in Iowa, so I think she'll probably drop out after Iowa. So she doesn't want to be embarrassed. She wants to remain a viable vice presidential choice for Biden. But I think she'll make it to Iowa. I think she'll probably come in 3rd or 4th place in Iowa. And I think she'll drop out after Iowa, is my guess. Oh, we just got another new member. Wow, now they're coming in. You guys have been waiting for the end. Welcome, new status Coup member. Let me make sure I get your name. Greg just signed up. Shakira just signed up. Doris. So let me get the number here so I have it right. Status Coup. We are now at 755 Status Coup members. Can we get to 760 by the end of the live stream? I know there's 5 more of you. You can become a member for as low as $5 a month. Welcome. Thank you for signing up, guys. Lulu, yes, it's apples and oranges. They already bought all the shit they need to buy. Correct. And I need to expand staff. Those folks, I love Jimmy, I love Kyle. I'm not knocking them, but, they have their staff and that's it. I need more camera people. I need more producers. I need more reporters. We're trying to build a network here. No, Klobuchar will drop out at some point because she's about power and personal perseverance. So she wants to become vice president. So she's going to drop out so she doesn't embarrass herself. She can't be vice president if she comes in terrible position in New Hampshire and Iowa. DSA and Justice Democrats, 2 organizations making an impact out there. Absolutely. DSA is making a huge, not that Justice Democrats isn't, but DSA has wildly expanded, like exploding all over the country. Young people have to vote in the primary. Bernie has to keep pushing that message. I agree. And I think his campaign is doing one hell of a job of registering a lot more young people. That's one of the things Marcus, our reporter, is going to be covering in Iowa. Bernie's campaign canvassing and how many young people are they registering. So stay tuned for that. He just got there, but he's going to be focusing on that too. Nina had me at hello in Travis Park, downtown San Antonio, Texas. Bernie inspires... Oh, I missed it. Bernie inspires people to get involved in politics. Tulsi doesn't encourage people getting involved. She just wants your vote or join the military. I think Tulsi's inspired a lot of people too. Again, I think Tulsi, somebody wrote it, doesn't have the class consciousness that Bernie has. Her main thing is the military-industrial complex, which is one hell of a thing. I totally agree with her. But I don't know if she has the class consciousness that Bernie has. That's true. All right. I'm hoping to get 5 more members. Don't let me down. We're at 755. I love seeing you guys sign up at $5 a month. It's every member at $5 a month counts. Every member counts. Yi Lahawa. We need 5 more Marcuses. I would love 1 more, let alone 5 more. Palast is good on Republican voter fuckery, but avoids Dem fuckery. I don't know about that. I've seen him cover Dem fuckery. I dislike the disingenuous defense of Modi by so-called progressives on Twitter. Yes, I agree with you, talking about the Indian Prime Minister. I think Castro is turning soft and going for Bernie's camp before he drops out. I don't know about that. Could he endorse Bernie, thinking that endorsing Bernie might open him up to vice president? Yeah. But I don't think Bernie would pick him as vice president, considering he sold foreclosed homes to Wall Street. I don't think so, while he was the HUD director. Ryan Corinth, $1.99 to celebrate new members. Thank you, Ryan Corinth. I do celebrate our new members. Ben Norton just had a good Twitter thread on this. What was his thread? Good thread on what? Let me know. I'll go look at it. Love Ben Norton. Oh, we just got a new member. Laura just signed up. Welcome to the Media Revolution. And all of you guys signing up will now be invited to our members call, which I think we're going to have next week. We got to have 2 in January because we didn't have 1 in December. We're supposed to do it every month. And I'm looking forward to the members call in January after we break our story that we've been teasing, because then we can tell you all the good stuff about everything that went into breaking this story. Wow, Laura just signed up as an annual member. $179 annual member. Thank you, Laura. Really, really appreciate it. We're now at 756 Status Coup members. Can we get 4 more people to sign up on the bottom line? Let's go, baby. 4 more members. Maybe I'll sleep well. Do. Princess Queen, $2. What do you think about Warren begging for donations? Warren begging for donations is because she's down 30% from last time, and a lot of presidential politics is optics. If she only I mean, I went over this earlier. It's not only 17 million. It's still a lot of money to raise, but compared to 24 million, a little over 30 days into Iowa, raising $6 million less. Not great optics. So yeah, that's why she's begging for money. It's very unique for a campaign to actually tell you the amount they've raised so far a couple days before the deadline. Most campaigns do not tell you the actual amount they raised. So, status quo. Did you see this story? AOC splits with working class New York voters to vote against repeal of Trump's SALT cap. No, I did not. Email it to me. info@statusquo.com. I haven't seen that story, but I'll look at it. info@statusquo.com. Sweet Bond, you guys should have the lady with the glasses on more. What lady with the glasses on? Jen doesn't have glasses that I know of, so I don't know which lady you're talking about. Ryan was blocked on Mayor Pete's Instagram page for pointing out his corrupt behavior. What a badge of honor. Oh, my Lord. Hey, as somebody who went to his debate watch party and was not allowed to take photos, video, I mean, I did it anyway, but was like, watched like a hawk, and I wasn't kicked out, but I was about to be. I feel your pain. Those Pete people are very tight on their optics. Please sign up for Jordan Not to Sing, my girlfriend says. Victoria Thomas, Jordan, what's your New Year's resolution? I don't do resolutions. I think it's overblown. My goal is the same every day, to grow status quo. Wish I had something better for you. I don't do resolutions. Lots of Trump Tulsi supporters' second choice is Trump. Can't figure that out. I don't know is that in the data? If so, that's very troublesome to me. If that's true. Because I know that's not Bernie Sanders supporters. Hey, you might want Tulsi and that's it, but you should not. Tulsi or Bernie supporters should not be supporting Trump, period. Oh, Sam Oser. Yeah, she's live streaming, I believe, every Saturday. Not the last two Saturdays because I was in South Bend. So we needed, we couldn't have anyone going live in case I was going to go live that day. And now with the holidays. But she'll be doing more next year, for sure. We like Sam. I'm surprised they didn't make Jordan dance High Hopes. They would have tried. Oh, my God, and they were such snowflakes, Pete Buttigieg's campaign. It was like, we don't want anyone taking video or photos. We want this to be a safe space where people could, live in privacy and blah, 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 blah. They were like, there might be people here who aren't Pete supporters who might want to cause trouble. Don't engage. Just don't engage. It was bizarre. Oh, we just got another new member. Welcome, Vanessa. Just joined Status Quo as a member. We are now at 757 Status Quo members. Wow. All of you were waiting until the end here. Thank you, Vanessa. Just signed up. We are now at 757 members. Can we get to 760? Oh my God, I would pop the bubbly tonight. Thank you, Vanessa. New Status Quo member. Oh, I do owe you guys a workout video. You're right. My girlfriend will tape it next week. Actually, I'm going to start Pilates, so that would be a good workout video. Anat, could you shoot me doing Pilates and then we'll shoot it? We'll air it for the people? Bernie says he's near 5 million donations at an average $18. That's near $90 million. Half a ball. Jordan resolution, eat less gluten. That is true. I am trying to eat less gluten. See what it does for my energy. Vanessa, you are welcome. Happy to join. Well, thank you, Vanessa. And I hope the people joining understand you're not just joining so we could have big numbers. You're literally joining to fund this reporting. We got to pay Jen, got to pay Marcus, got to pay Colin, got to pay the new camera person who I think we're going to bring on next year. Got to pay for travel, got to pay for advertising. I mean, it's all very expensive. It's not cheap to do real reporting. So you are actually funding that real reporting. You're making it happen. Hip, hip, hooray! Yes, Pilates is dope. Anat's taking me. Anat, we demand a workout video in this style. I'll have to look at that after. Are you ever going to interview experts, authors, professors? I already do. I interviewed Richard Wolff a couple months ago. I've interviewed other experts on climate. But yeah, we try. We definitely try. Definitely, if you have some suggestions for who you'd like us to interview, send them over. info@statuscoup.com. That's info@statuscoup.com. I would love to reach out to more experts in certain things. Yep, Irene. Yep, many smaller donations to top off my autos this month. Thank you, Irene. We appreciate it. I'm happy to join too. Great reporting here. Thank you, Princess Queen. Greg, I got my donations to Tulsi refunded and redistributed to Bernie, AOC, and a couple of the squad members. Okay. Well, I think those are good donations to make. Will you interview Manu Ginobili? I love him as a basketball player. What should I talk to him about? What's he doing politically that I should know about? Talk about France. You're right. There's a lot going on in France. The Yellow Vest movement is rocking and rolling there, and Macron and his goons are trying to squash it. So that's a good idea. We should do more on France. Interview Richard Ojeda. That would be awesome. Okay. I like Richard. I've heard some mixed things about Richard in West Virginia. Some progressives, not fans. But I would reach out to him. "20 minutes till 5 Eastern. We're at 757 members. Do I need to start singing to get 3 new members? I'll do it. Anat just heard me singing yesterday. Third Eye Blind. I'll do it. Will I get it? Oh, no. But I might get a copyright violation if I do that. Can we get 3 new members for this man? This is why you should become a member to Status Coup. They're the only ones in the field. Giving the microphone back to the people. D. Lawrence, are you ever going to interview experts, authors, professors? I think you just asked that. Yes. Why do you think French protesters attacked RT camera people? Did they? I didn't see that. If they did, that's not cool. We are for non-violent protest. All right, let's read some more. It would be amazing if you could cover Italy as well, as the 5-star movement is in the government. Plus, can you try to have an interview with Michael Moore? So glad you brought that up. I actually want to go to Italy. That's been number 1 on my bucket list. So if we do go to Italy, I would definitely cover that for sure while I'm eating pizza and drinking their wine. But yes, we'll go to Italy and I will cover that. Let me tell you something about Michael Moore. I've been trying to get Michael Moore, get in touch with Michael Moore for 4 years now. I like Michael Moore. I don't have anything negative to say, but probably easier to get in touch with the original Deep Throat than Michael Moore. So yeah, I'd love to interview Michael Moore. I'm hoping we'll be able to get in touch with him early next year, for reasons I can't get into. But I do like Michael Moore. I'd love to interview him. I've just not been successful in getting his people to get back to me for whatever reason. So let them know. Start it. Hashtag status more. Status more. And whoever sent that to, Pascal, email me, info@statuscoup.com about the 5-star movement so I could read into more about it, but you have to remind me. Ryan, would love to sign up for a membership, but I signed up for a $10 Status Coup membership last week. Yes, Ryan! We're so appreciative. South France is number one for me, but just France in general. I'm a Francophile. I love France. I spent 9 hours in Paris during a layover once, and boy, did I have fun. I had a good time. Oh, you know what? Before I end, I want to air for you my favorite part of our in the field reporting this year. It happened recently. I want to air for you my favorite moment from our in the field reporting, which was from a woman in South Bend, because what she said to me speaks for everywhere in this country. And maybe this will inspire 3 more people to sign up as members. I was interviewing a bunch of local activists in South Bend after a homeless man froze to death under Pete Buttigieg's mayorship, by the way. And this woman, Victoria, what she was saying just spoke to me. And this is why we go in the field to talk to real people. And you will never hear what she had to say on corporate media. But for those of you who have seen it, I apologize. You're going to see it again. For those that haven't, definitely. This is why we do what we do, right here. No? Hey there, Jordan Chariton. Let me find it.
Going back a bit here, because I believe you prefaced this round of discussion with a question about, what is Mayor Pete's actual position with the homeless. And Mayor Pete has gone on record numerous times. You can browse through the South Bend Tribune. You can look up things he said about what his vision of South Bend is. And he has said repeatedly that he wants South Bend to be the home of the affluent and the educated. He won't show up to an event for the homeless, but he'll show up to an event of a ribbon cutting for $300,000 homes that cost $300,000. Did you see him at that ribbon cutting? Well, yeah, he's all proud of that because that represents his vision of what South Bend is. And he's on record saying it repeatedly. The affluent, the educated. So what that says to me is he doesn't even know his community. Okay? Sure, we have Notre Dame, we have Bethel, we have good educational systems within the city, but the city has never been a place of the affluent. The city has always been the hardworking grunts, the people who live paycheck to paycheck, the people who hit the ground running. And so I am insulted every time I hear Mayor Pete say South Bend should be a home for the affluent, a home for the educated. It means he knows nothing about who the people of South Bend are and who the people of South Bend have always been. We are basically the worker bees. We make things happen. And it doesn't mean that we're not educated, but what it says to me is he is out of touch with his own constituents. He is out of touch with what South Bend really represents.
And what would that foreshadow to you if he became the Democratic nominee for President of the United States?
Where basically it's the same thing, right? I mean, it's what's ever good for the educated, what's ever good for, I mean, if you're way up in the income bracket, well, then you're important to him. But if you're an everyday worker, if you have to, work 12 hours a day, it's not going to mean anything to him. If you're struggling to make ends meet, it's not going to matter to him. You want to go out, you want to pay your mortgage, you want to make your car payment, you want to pay your taxes, whatever. That's what you're working for, And yeah, we all want to better ourselves, but I mean, that's not the reality. All of us don't. There's a great commercial by Southern New Hampshire University, I think it is, where the gentleman says that opportunity is not distributed equally. And, but like potential is. Like we all have potential. But the opportunity to reach that potential is not distributed equally. And, I think that that's a great way of saying where we are, not just in the country, but in the city as well. We don't all have the same opportunities. Doesn't mean we don't have potential. So, I mean, if he were to, God forbid, I don't want him to be president, but I mean, I think he would just forget about all of us, and like Clara so eloquently said, the middle class is shrinking, 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 so who's his base going to be? Who's he going to pander to?
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you. Woo! That woman gave me chills. Gave me chills. I loved what she said. It's the grunts. Because shit, that could be said in Detroit, in Flint, Milwaukee, Cleveland, Chicago, LA, Seattle, San Francisco, Portland, Philadelphia, DC. That's the story of America, folks. People like her being oppressed and abused by people like Pete Buttigieg. That's the truth. And welcome Mark, new member. We are now at 758 Status Coup members. We've gotten a flurry in the final 20 minutes here. Can we get 2 more members before I sign off for the last time this decade? You could do it as low as $5 a month. Makes a big difference. Love to finish at 760. Oh, all right. She did nail it. That's why I play that. And that's, to me, we're going to use that in our next promotional video, because to me, just imagine for a second if you would hear people like that more often in media, whether quoted in a New York Times or Washington Post, whether on CNN, on MSNBC. That's how you wake more people up. Most people that consume corporate media that are uninformed, it's not that they lack passion. It's that they don't know what's really going on. That's what I have found traveling all over the country. Dimitri, I was homeless for 2 years. I lived in my car. Now I own a restaurant and partner in another. I feed homeless daily and love my community. It's amazing. It's a great story, Dimitri. I'm glad things have turned around for you. I mean, you have people freezing to death in South Bend while Pete Buttigieg is running around America pretending to be somebody, or pretending he could be president. Real Americans like her need to stand up and take our country back. Well, that's why there's a lot of organizing going around. There's a lot of organizing going around right now. Carl Knight, interview Mark Ames regarding what it's like being marginalized by the media. He's the best. It's a good idea. What do you think of Cenk running for Congress? I've addressed this too many times. Not addressing it again. Good luck to him. That's all I got to say. Go back to old videos. I've addressed it quite a few times. Good video clips. It says a lot about Pete. I agree. I agree. All right. Final super chats, final Q&A. It's the final countdown. Can we get 2 more? I'm losing my voice here. 2 more of you. $5 a month. To expand the map. To expand where we could go. To expand what we could cover. To expand what we could investigate. You could do it as low as $5 a month, or if you have the money, we have other plans too. Help us be the journalist covering real stories. Help us give a microphone back to the people. Have a great New Year, Jordan. You too. You too. Wow, Seth Peterson, $50 in the super chat. Seth, God bless you, man. You also gave quite a lot last time. Thank you so much, Seth. We really appreciate it. Love the sticker, too. Email us, by the way, info@statuscoup.com, Seth. I'd love to thank you personally. info@statuscoup.com. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You've given quite a lot. Would love to talk to you. Jordan, you're doing a really great work, man. Stay strong. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. All right, folks. All I got. All I got for the year. All I got for the day. I think we've gone probably 3.5, 4 hours now, so my voice is getting a little raspy, a little hungry. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Jen's not here today, but I know she thanks you. Thank you for everything you've been doing for us. I mean, we genuinely would not be operational without you, the viewers. It's a lot. It is not easy building a media company from the ground up. It's not easy doing it without funding. It's not easy doing it without big money. But I think that's the right way to do it. I think that's the way we stay independent. I think that's the way we stay have our integrity. I think that's the way we actually rabble rouse and make shit happen and break stories and aggressively take corrupt individuals and groups down, is doing it through the people. We hope 2020 and the next year and the next decade not only helps grow Status Coup, but helps us give the microphone back to more communities that currently have no media attention. It's always amazing to me. You go into these places like South Bend, Flint, Detroit, and activists look at us as like rescue choppers because there's nobody out there covering their stories. It's really, really sad. It's really, really infuriating. There is so few media outlets and journalists covering these important stories. So that's why we exist. You guys are making it happen. You know, still time. We fell short of 760, but we're now at 758. So if 2 more of you want to sign up, there's still the rest of today. Thank you for watching. Thanks to Marcus for his great reporting that I was able to show. Thank you for you guys for funding that South Bend trip. And I will see you again. I'll be off tomorrow and the New Year. I'll be off Monday, Tuesday, possibly Wednesday. It's my brother's wedding, so I'll be on New Year's Eve. He's getting married. His wife, his fiance, soon-to-be wife, her birthday is New Year's Eve, so they're getting married on New Year's Eve. And then New Year's Day, I think there's some more stuff with the wedding after. So I'll probably be back on the 2nd. But I hope everyone has a lovely New Year, safe New Year, and let's fuck up the oligarchy in 2020. Peace out.